Hello, everyone. Welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Friday, the 10th of April, 2026. Of course, I'm Carey Holzman, and here today to review something new to us, but maybe not new to you. Our friends over at Beelink, who we've worked with pretty extensively in the past, had gone kind of silent, and I'm not quite sure what was going on over there. And I decided I'm going to just go buy a Beelink unit, and I'll look on eBay and see what I can find if there's any deals. And I find a unit called an SEi14, which is a Core Ultra i5, not a Core, but an Ultra i5 Intel model with the ARC graphics. And after I purchased it, on eBay, sellers are generally now taking out RAM and storage. It's almost universal, because you just make more money if you take the RAM and storage out. So, of course, it shipped without RAM and storage. We just got it, and I decided to shift some things around today to showcase this Beelink SEi14. But in getting ready to prep for today's video, I soon realized that even though this unit was released and reviewed by many other channels last year, it is no longer made. There's no links to it. There's no history or archive that we can find online from Beelink that ever promoted this, ever showed the specs. It just doesn't seem to exist. That's very strange. I don't know why, but this has been replaced essentially with the Ultra 9, which is a much higher end model. So what's the deal with the Ultra 5s? In my line of work, where I work with real customers with real computer problems, in real businesses that rely on their computers working every minute of every working day, I have to provide them with systems that are within their budget, that are reliable, that aren't too slow, and they aren't so high-end that they're going to run hot and make noise. And I find that the Core i5 line for my business clients is almost universally 100%, with a few exceptions, the solution universally across every customer I've got. But anything lower than that is a little bit, we're going to be replacing it sooner, right? And anything higher than that, we're going to be spending a lot more money and dealing with potential complaints of fan noise. So I stay away from the Ultra 7s and the Ultra 9s, except for customers that really, really want that specifically. And I'm hoping that this will be a nice solution, except even if it is, I can't get them anymore. So it might be too little too late. But we're going to take a look at it. And if you're curious how Beelink makes computers, there's a great video which you can watch. It's called How Mini PCs Are Made. I'm trying to find the window capture for this. There it is. It's called How Mini PCs Are Made, Beelink Factory Tour and Assembly Process. And if we look through this, you'll see to make these cases is a whole process that I'm not sure you can appreciate just how much goes into making the case. If it were plastic, that'd be a different process altogether, but these are metal cases, and they have to be formed, fit, anodized, polished, deburred. I mean, half of this video, 10 minutes into it, is they were making just the case. And then the other half of the video is just running through the assembly line process, prepping the circuit boards, putting the units together, and then the proper testing they go through at each step of the line. You know, they're counting how many screws or something they've got. That's their quality control, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a fascinating view. If you've not seen it, check it out. It's Made in Motion documentaries. And there is no narration. It's just text on the screen, as I recall, which is great. It's an interesting thing to watch, and it doesn't need any sort of narration. So we'll give Beelink a shout out. A lot of companies will not show their assembly processes because their competitors could borrow ideas from them. One of the couple of last sort of staggering machines we saw from Beelink when they were really innovating and doing things different, I have in front of me here. I still have them because they're flagships of this era. I would say Beelink owned this era. So here's the GTR 6 and a GTR 7. You know, the GTR 6, by the way, if you don't remember this, we reviewed this a while back. And this red one is the 6. Look at the back of this thing. It has 4 HDMI ports in the back. That's insane. 4 HDMI ports. And then this cover, if I spill liquid on it, it just pulls up and rolls off. It's like waterproof. And they give you a black cover and a red cover. You can pop them off and change them out. So for me, this is what I think of when I think of Beelink. And then the GTR 7 came out, and that's where they started using the magnetic power clip, and you know, they just went with the standard 1 HDMI, 1 display port, and you know, give you a couple of network ports there. And it's okay. It was all right, but I'd say that was the pinnacle of Beelink's achievement, and I was really looking forward to seeing follow-ups to this family. And unfortunately, it looks like they have moved on, or the tech has moved on. I'm not sure what the complexities are, but that leads us to where we're at today, where mostly, in my opinion, all the Beelinks look alike. And so you have to really watch the specifications to make sure you're getting the unit you intend to get. Many units will share the same case and potentially even motherboard, and they're switching out CPUs. And so what you'll end up with is, like if you go to Beelink's website, you may see a couple of units that are very different, but they look exactly the same. And they're priced very different, they're spec'd out very different. And I don't know, I kind of long for the old days when there was a real uniqueness besides just repurposing a case. I understand it saves money by, you know, not having to design a new case every time, but I don't know. Well, we'll leave that for each of us to decide on our own. But for me personally, it's just my preference to be able to identify these surely by looking at them. It's kind of like modern cars. You know, when you looked at a car from the 1950s, you pretty much know what make and model that was, because no two looked alike. But when you look at cars today, they all look the same. And it's hard to tell one manufacturer from another apart from the individual grills, which I don't think most people really pay attention to unless you're a car person, and you can identify the car now only by the grill. So in that case, let me jump over to the chat room and say hello to everybody. And before we do that, I want to remind you that our friends over at VIP-URCDKeys are the ones making today's video possible, along with our members. And they're where I go when I want to buy a Windows license key or an Office activation key. So in order to do this, if you look under any of my live videos, I'll show you right here. Here's a previous live video we did. And if we go down to where it says, you know, below the title, and it shows how many views and how many days ago, click on more. And what that's going to do is that's going to open up our video notes. That's where we have links and information for everything you saw in that video. And here you'll find the direct links for Windows 11, Windows 10, Office, and just click on one of those links. It'll take you right to VIP-URCDKeys. So in this case, we've clicked on Windows 11 Pro, and then you can hit the Buy It Now button, or Buy Now, and then you will enter your account information. If you don't have an account, just create one. It's free. That's going to be your email address, and choose a password that is unique for them, and that'll keep track of your site, keep track of your receipts indefinitely. So if you ever need to look that receipt up, you just log in and go get it. In the meantime, if you want to save 25%, enter the coupon code Carey, and you'll see that price dropped down to 25 bucks, and then submit your order. And then that's going to take you to how you want to pay. One of the requirements is they've got to take PayPal, and that's the first link there, beside Visa, MasterCard, Google Pay, and other options. I always use PayPal personally, and then just go through the steps. It doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, you're going to get your product key in about 2 minutes in your email. About 2 minutes. No real serious waiting involved here. So they're very quick to process your payment, to provide you the download link and your activation key via that email address you used when you created your account. And then if in the future you want to retrieve that again in 10 years or whatever, you just log back in and you can see all your entire purchase history. It's very, very convenient that you don't have to keep track of everything yourself. Because from my experience, most end users can't be bothered. They only think about the moment right now. They have no thoughts of tomorrow. And then they end up calling support and forcing the company essentially under pressure to do their own, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like you want somebody to come over to your house and figure out where you left your car keys. It's your car keys, and it's your responsibility, not anybody else's, unless you want to pay them. People think companies should have to pay their own employees to help you find what you lost at no cost to you. So companies have come out with this really ingenious way of simply giving you access to everything you purchased under your account. That way you can help yourself. You don't have to wait on anybody. And maybe after you do this to yourself a few times, you'll make some changes. Or maybe you won't, and you'll just keep logging in because you'd rather do that than put something away where you can find it later. Either way, it works out. So kudos to all the companies online that do this now, which is pretty much standard, whether it's Amazon, Newegg, anywhere you purchase online. You need to have an account. If you choose to check out as a guest on some websites, that means good luck. You don't want to do that. I'm telling you, it's on you if you do, though. So you live with the bed you made, and I don't want to get involved in it because I got more important things to do than help you find what you misplaced. I know that sounds a little nasty, but trust me, it gets really old. It's so common, and it's so unnecessary. It is just aggravating and inconsiderate. It is rude. It is selfish. Now, if you want to pay for that, you want to pay somebody to help you, I take it all back. But people think this is just expected. Anyway, I really appreciate that VIP-URCDKeys keeps a log of all your purchases indefinitely for that very reason. And if you do need to reach out to them, they do have 6 months of free support. So they're not going to abandon you after the sale. And just so you know, you're paying about 90% less than what Microsoft wants for the exact same product. And yes, it's all on the up and up. It's all legal. It's what I use in my business, and I can't mess around with that stuff. I'm not going to throw away my business to save some, even if I was saving $150, my business is worth a lot more than $150. But at the same time, I need to have competitive rates. So if I'm competing against Dell and HP that are buying licenses for probably $7 a piece, I don't know what they pay, but I'm just saying they're buying a lot more than I am. And the more you buy, the scales of economy bring the price of each unit down cheaper. What about guys like us that only need one or two here and there? VIP-URCDKeys pools all of you together to simulate essentially one large company buying a lot of keys. It's kind of the same thing, but it's more of a co-op than it is, the way that Microsoft's marketing has embedded this idea into our heads. But anyway, regardless of that, thanks to our folks over at VIP-URCDKeys. You can rely on them for working, fast response, working reliable keys, 6 months of free support, low prices, guaranteed to always always activate. And if there's any issues, they'll help you out with that right away. So, all right. With that, I want to say hello to everybody joining us in the chat. I see a bunch of our friends hanging out today, and I hope you're all having a great Friday. Eugene Ildago says hello, along with It's My Converse, who just became a supporter. Right on. Thank you for that. Looks like they've been a supporter for a couple months. Isaiah joins us. Linda says Beelink, and there you have it. Okay. William Gordon says hello. And I also see Jim Kenny, Edward Skinner, Michael Lavelle, David Graham, John Williams, 3D Everything, Mark Gaines, Luke Greeniot. I also see Marlena, our chat moderator, our channel administrator, hanging out with everybody.
I really do, and you see me in person.
And here she comes. Speak of the devil.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll get to that here in a minute. Thank you. Let's see who else we're saying hello to. Andy W6AD and Bradley Morris joining us in our chat room. If you're watching live, please do join us in our chat room. Just pop in there and say hello. Edward Bass just did that. Welcome in, Edward. And I also see Mike Gamer, Nick Caffrey, and Jack Kogamus joining us. Jack's in Toronto, where it is 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Mats Olof joining us from Sweden. Says hello. Welcome. And WD180K says, I purchased 3 keys from VIP-URCDKeys this month, and the keys have been available the second I got back in from PayPal. Yeah, they're quick. Stephen Detroit joins us, says, thank you all for all your videos, Carey. I love them. Well, thank you. Flattery will get you everywhere. Scott says hello. Mark Gaines renews his membership. Luke Greenia also renews his membership. They've both been members now 47 months. That's amazing. Luke says the time just flies by so fast when we're having fun. And Mark Gaines says 47 months, every little bit helps. Hey, thank you. Also, thank you out to Anthony and Frank Jimmy, members here as well. And I just noticed in the chat room, Rick Lakes and Supreme Nerd saying hello. And, oh, I don't see Buster in there, but our friend Peter Laycock sends an Amazon gift card prior to the show in lieu of a super chat, as he typically does. And thank you, as always, to our good friend Buster, who I am sure will be catching up with the show a bit later. Dazzle555 also joins us and says hello. And let's check that email before we get to the next step here. It's from Mark Gaines, who says, I hope you enjoy this gift card. In lieu of a super chat, I solved my Corsair iQ screen glitch problem with a powered internal USB hub. That's interesting. And the Corsair folks did not suggest that to you? You came up with this on your own? Anyway, thank you for the Amazon gift card, Mark, and the update. What a struggle it's been with him and the liquid coolers, or any cooler. So hopefully that'll all settle in and be good for a while. The update on the system we diagnosed, what was it, Monday? That's all running this whole week. It hasn't crashed once. So I think I'll make a short, quick tip. There's an error message that happens very rarely in Windows 10 or 11 that never happened in a prior version of Windows. It's a new kind of an error message. And it basically says something went wrong. And when you research it, it says it could be hardware, it could be software, it could be drivers, it could be corruption on the drive, it could be bad RAM, it could be a power supply, it could be a motherboard, it could be your storage drive, it could be your cables, it could be your fans, you might be overheating. Like, it's completely useless to Google this error. It's so vague and it's severe. It shuts the whole thing down, and it happens, at least for me, intermittently, very randomly. Is happening once or twice a week for one of my clients for a machine that's been running for nearly 5 years. All of a sudden it started exhibiting this behavior, and yet none of the other computers in the office, all configured and built the same, all getting the same updates, all the same software, all the same drivers. None of them had this issue. You know, it's basically like, well, you might as well just rebuild the whole computer. There's so many things to check. Long story short is I think we've got it figured out. I hope I'm not tooting my horn too early, but it looks like it's gone. Well, we dropped the machine back off on Sunday, and it's been on ever since I dropped it off Sunday night. It is not rebooted. It is not lost online connection. And usually that would be the indicator to me, is that it just goes offline, and I can't see it on my remote software anymore, because it black screens out with this error message and it just seizes. So I think I'll do a quick tips video on that for the very few people that will ever see this problem. It's very, very unusual. And, you know, it's probably, if it helped everybody who ever had this problem, it might help 100 people in 3 years. That's how rare it is. So I thought, yeah, I'll cover it, because who else would? So I'll work on that maybe this weekend and see if I can get something done. But back over to the Beelink, I went on eBay and I saw this unit, and we have to work within a certain budget because YouTube isn't really paying us anymore, just so you know. We're looking at, you know, if we have a budget of $400 for a mini PC that we go out and buy, and we did a mini PC review on a Friday and a Sunday and nothing else, that's $800 a week, but that week will only earn us about, with your memberships, maybe $500. So as you can tell, we're losing $300. And then if we did the same thing next week, we'd lose another $300. Next week, another $300. All right, so what ends up happening is it's a spending more than we're earning classic business error. It's an accounting issue that has to do with our spending and whether or not we can stay in this business or shift to something like, if we talk about the news, there's no cost. I can just open up news sites and read the news out loud. That costs me nothing, and whatever little we get from YouTube, it's all profit. You see the difference? So while I would love to continue to go out and buy mini PCs from manufacturers that aren't sending them to us anymore, like Beelink, we are tied, our hands are tied financially. We simply can't afford it. So $800 a week would be $3,200 a month. That's about $36,000 a year, 37. Anyway, yeah, for those reasons, we have to vary our content to other things, or count on companies to send us items for review, or we just read the news, or we have a repair or diagnostic. And that is just how times have changed. This wasn't a problem a few years ago. I couldn't keep up with it. I've never been in a business in my life watching it die or watching it suffer. I don't know if it's dying. You know, I don't know that the business is going to get back to what it was, or if it's fading out to a point where it becomes just a niche interest for enthusiasts. Time will tell. But in the meantime, I love what I do. And let's face it, at my age, if this continues sort of dragging on for a while, it won't be too long before I could hang it up and say, well, you know, time to retire, because that would be great timing if it happened that way. On the other hand, if it resurges, I'd be probably more interested in keeping it going, because I still love to do it. So we're just trying to bide some time right now. It's too early to tell what's happening. But I think, you know, if we look at what some of the manufacturing is doing, like what Beelink, the amount of effort and uniqueness they used to put in the machines, versus now they're kind of all the same, more or less. Size differences, but more or less the same design. Let me show you what we're looking at here. So this is the Beelink SEi14. Now this initially shipped with RAM and storage, but the eBay seller took it out. This is what is happening in 2026. Let's be very clear. The eBay seller, and it doesn't matter if you're the eBay seller, you want to make as much money as possible, okay? And I want you to remember this, because anytime you're upset about the price of something, then the question is, what if it was you selling it? So you go somewhere and you see that there's a price of $500. And you're like, oh man, you know, this thing was $250 a few months ago. I'm not going to spend $500 for it. Typical buyer attitude. But let's say you trade places with that seller, and you have this computer you paid $250 for. Not this one, but you know what I mean, just metaphorically. And you look on eBay and everybody's selling them at $600. Or maybe they're all selling them at $500. Why would you sell yours any less? You'd be a fool, right? So the seller says, I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to give this thing away for what I paid for it, when clearly it's people are willing to pay more for it. And as the buyer, you're saying exactly the same thing. I'm not going to pay that much for it when I know it only cost this much a few months ago. Yeah, but that was a few months ago. I used to buy a chocolate bar for $0.25 in the 1970s. I'm not going to spend $1.50 on the same chocolate bar. If anything, it's smaller than it was. But you know what? I will. Because which of us do you think is going to wait it out? Me or Nestle? Nestle's got plenty of money. Hershey's got plenty of money. They don't care if I buy the candy bar or not. You pay the same as everybody else. Maybe you catch it on sale for 80 cents. Okay? So the sellers want to make as much money as possible. I think that's pretty obvious no matter what business you're in. Try and negotiate a car deal. They're always losing money on the car, aren't they? They want to squeeze every bit of money out of that car that they can. In much the same way, when you're selling something, when you put something up for sale, you want every penny you can get out of it, or you just want it, you know, someone to take it and get it out. That's why you'll see things at a garage sale for 25 cents. Just get it out of here. So it all sort of, there's nobody being evil here. The buyers want a bargain and the sellers want a good payday. So somewhere in there, there's a negotiation, ideally, like at an auction where there's bids versus buy it now, where the highest bidder takes it. And that's whatever the product is worth. So if you have a $500 item and you list it for $400 on eBay and you list it as a buy it now and nobody's buying it, you can just leave it there indefinitely until eventually, you just need one buyer, right? Or if you want to get rid of it, you list it for 20 bucks, set it at auction, and I guarantee you it will not sell for $20 because someone will say, I'll pay $20 for that. Well, I'd pay 40. Well, I'd pay 60. Well, I'd pay 80. Well, I'd pay 100. Well, I'd pay 150. Well, I'd pay 200. Well, I'd pay 220, and then that's it. Nobody wants to go above 220, and you're like, oh, I'm losing my shirt on this $500 computer because I put it up at auction. I only $220. I just lost $180 plus eBay fees plus shipping. You understand why a seller doesn't want to do that, right? But the buyer is like, look at the great deal I got. So just, if you don't want to mess with stuff like that, just buy from retailers like Amazon, where you have free 30-day returns, excellent customer service, fast shipping, and just great prices all over. As far as like, if you're willing to get rid of the return process, say once it's yours, it's yours. If you're willing to get rid of a warranty, if you're really willing to get rid of the original box and you're not paying for any of the fast shipping, you could save a lot of money, but it's a one-way ticket. It's like me buying the candy bar. I cannot return it. So it's now mine to either eat or give away or toss in the trash. That's it. I cannot return it. I pretty much can't resell it. So if you want to save money by giving up all of those assurances for faster shipping, brand new warranted product, 30-day returns, excellent customer service, then you want to buy from a place like Amazon that does that. But if you want the cheapest thing you can get your hands on, and you'll just deal with whatever the problems are, and you're more of a gambler, you're the kind of guy that'll go into Vegas and throw your money down on the roulette table and say red or black, just understand the decisions you're making and the consequences that follow. Your consequences, maybe you're going to pay a little bit more. Buying it new, knowing no one's ever monkeyed with it. It's brand new, it's a fresh warranty, it's a 30-day return. It's fast, free shipping. You go eBay, who knows? You go AliExpress, who knows? You'll likely spend less money than you will at Amazon, but not by much. And if it's worth so little to you that you'd rather save the 20 bucks and wait 3 weeks and have no return and no warranty and no support and too bad, so sad, it's your problem now. Nothing wrong with that as long as you understood right when you made that purchase what the price difference was for. Nobody was giving you the same thing for a lower price. That's all I'm trying to say. Very rarely does that ever happen unless there's a sale and there's a temporary price break. That would be about the only exception. So I go on eBay and I'm looking for a machine, and I'm a technician. I have lots of RAM and I have lots of storage. It doesn't bother me they took the RAM and storage out. If that means I can save money, it gives me something to do with my RAM and storage. So it's a win-win. My only concern is, what if it's broken? What if there's a problem with it? Well, I'm a technician. That's my job. So when I buy from eBay, I never send anything back. Once I buy it, it's mine. And if I find that there's something I can't fix or I'm not interested in fixing, then I will relist it on eBay and say it's for parts only. And even though I'll probably lose half my whatever I paid for it, someone else will buy it and help absorb those losses, right? So I'm not losing 250, maybe I'm only losing 125 or something. So in any event, I expect this to be like new. The way it was described by the seller is it was pretty much just turned on and tested, and then the RAM and storage were stripped out and it was put back in the box. That's all I know. And I never buy from an eBay seller that has less than 10 feedback. I'm seeing a lot of fraud on eBay right now, and it's so obvious. And the fact that eBay doesn't flag it, and you cannot report it to eBay unless you're a victim. So you have to become a victim first. So there's some mini PCs that are about half price that claim to be brand new from sellers that have zero feedback and claim to have more than one. And all they're doing is scamming buyers. Yes, if you buy from somebody on eBay that has zero feedback, you could get a good deal. But without any reputation built up behind that person, fewer people are willing to bid on that item and take that risk. Maybe that person's lazy and they just don't get around to shipping it to you for a week. Maybe that person's a scammer. Maybe that person is just a brand new seller. Maybe they've got a little market and they decided to put a bunch of their stuff listed on eBay, and it's all just zero feedback. That's suspicious. That is so yeah, if you go to bid on something like that, you're probably not going to have many counter bidders because of the risk involved. In my experience, when you see something on eBay that's an $800 computer and they're selling it for $400 and it's brand new, it's never been opened, there's no actual pictures of the product, they're just product images from the manufacturer, you're dealing with a scammer with zero feedback. Now, why eBay security doesn't care and why they can't simply weed these obvious problems out, the fact that they allow somebody to create a brand new account on eBay, have zero feedback, no sales history, and then say, I've got 10 of these. They have no real images of the product. They are just basically saying, you know, it's brand new in a package. There's no explanation. And, you know, it'll say 10 available, and they're $400 a piece. If they sell all 10 to suckers, that's $4,000. Now, in theory, eBay holds that money in escrow until they can verify product's been shipped. But if they ship you an empty box, eBay completes the sale because eBay doesn't know. And then if you complain to eBay, eBay says, well, they delivered it, so too bad. We're not helping you. Even though eBay says they got your back, they do not. Never has eBay helped me, not once. I've been on eBay since 1997. They have never helped me in 20 years, nearly 20 years. You have to go to the post office general and you have to file a complaint and make a police report and then file that over to your credit card company or PayPal in order to get your money back. Totally worth the savings to get burned and waste your time, right? So I think eBay needs to do more. With that being said, when I'm shopping on eBay, I'm looking at the seller's feedback. So when I saw this, I said, oh, the price looks good. It's about $250. It's the specs on this are, let's see, we've got them in the video notes. Mara put them in there. This is a Core Ultra 5 125H with the Intel Arc graphics. It's got 2 sockets for DDR5 RAM that did originally come with RAM. It has 2 NVMe slots, I believe, which of course it did come with, but were removed. It's got 2 2.5 gig LAN ports on it, a Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2. This has Thunderbolt 4 on it, USB 3.2 times 2, USB 2 times 2, a display port, and an HDMI port. Okay, so that's what we know about it. And let's get to our unboxing. Had a nice conversation with the eBay seller. Seems like a really nice guy. Sometimes, you know, I'd say most times there's no conversation. You buy, they ship, you're happy, they're happy, we're done. Every once in a while, you might engage in a dialogue with the sellers or the buyers, depending on your situation. And you might be like, wow, you know, I'm really glad I bought from that person. They seem like a really cool person. That's the vibe I got here. Well, first and foremost, this doesn't look like it's ever been opened. Does that look like it's been opened? Maybe this guy's really good at opening these up. I see that some of the specs are wrong in our video notes. There is only one RJ45 here. When we go to Beelink and we look this model up, it doesn't seem to exist anymore. So we couldn't pull the specs. I guess we'd have to pull the specs from another YouTube reviewer who perhaps reviewed this last year, but we'll have to make a correction. I don't even know that that's 2.5 gig. Nothing on the box indicates what this is, so I am surprised to see this wrapper still on here, because it sure looks like no one ever opened this. So he did a good job. If that's all he did was open it, turn it on, take the RAM and storage out, and then bothered to put the plastic back on it, that's pretty cool. Well done. Cares about the details. Now, one of the things that Beelink talks about is how their case has no ventilation holes around the edges or the top. So what they're boasting is their cooling system brings in air from the bottom and then blows the hot air out the back right up here. So kind of like a ATX power supply, an ATX 2.0 power supply has a fan on the bottom and blows air out the back of the power supply. In this way, you have a much cleaner design. You could set it on the side if you wanted to, and you wouldn't worry about blocking any of the air vents. I'm not quite sure who cares if it has, you know, like the GTR has vents all over it. I don't mind that at all. Plus, of course, the air is going to come out the back on this one as well. But they decided this was a cleaner look. And since they're dealing with a metal case, it's probably easier and cleaner to polish that than to put holes in it and then deburr all of the holes. So, yes.
You have email.
And I have email, okay.
And you have a cat.
No, that's not my cat. That is a stray cat that came in and won't leave.
He likes you.
Yeah, well, that's not my fault. All right, let's see what else is in the box and we'll check email. So we've got the little hello. Let's go this way. It says hello. I guess that probably went on top. It's got a little foam on the bottom. And then we've got our documentation here. So it's all like new. We've got an HDMI cable. And we have our power brick, which looks like no one's ever used it. A little torn up on the inside, probably just through shipping. There's no Visa mount or anything like that. No additional cables or screws. And yeah, that seems like it's pretty well glued down inside of there. Even this still has the plastic on it. So this is like new. If I can get the plastic off. Okay, so essentially power brick, unit, HDMI cable, and a little bit of paperwork. So what I'm going to do is just set this aside for now. Now on the bottom, it may be difficult for you to see, but there's little rubber plugs right here in the corners that look like they're just there to cover the screw holes, which I don't understand. If this was the top of the unit and you didn't want people to see the screws, I get it, but it's the bottom. No one's ever going to see them. I suppose you don't have to put those back in if you don't want to. Of course, you know me. If that's how it came, that's how I'll put it back. But we need to get a fine little tool and just take out these little plugs. I'm just using a probe. Harbor Freight Tools sells these. They're very sharp. It's very easy to poke yourself with them. And you can see that probe actually digs into the rubber, makes a small hole. And then it sort of sticks to the end there, making a very tiny little hole, which then the rubber just kind of seals back up. As far as I can tell, there's nothing sticky. It's hard to tell if there's any glue on one side or the other. And now what you can see are the screws. That's why I say you could probably just throw those out. I don't know why they're there. But let me grab, let's see, what kind of driver do we need for that? I think my regular driver is probably too big. Oh, it isn't. All right. 1, 2, a 3, and a 4. Yeah, I challenge any of you to go online and find any official mention of this from Beelink, the SEi14 with the Ultra 5, because we looked and we could not find any evidence that this ever existed, and it just came out last year. So that's weird. Now we do have a little pull tab right here. I don't know how well you can see that on camera. We can grab that and lift up, keeping in mind that where the sticker is here faces the rear I/O. I got to remember that for when I'm putting it back together. Now we have a metal screen here, and the metal screen is held on with 4 screws, 2 of which we just removed in these corners. See that? These are already out. And then there's 2 more in the middle, which we'll take out now. Now these screws are a little bit different, a little shorter, so I'll move them aside. What's interesting is this is a dust filter, and it says right on it, please dust regularly. How are you supposed to do that? They should have made this where you could slide it out. I mean, that's not encouraging people to open the unit up strictly for dusting. I've never seen a mini PC manufacturer ever make any recommendation to open it. They kind of say open it if you must. Otherwise, leave it alone. And then I think this just lifts out. And yeah, you can see the RAM has been removed. And this is a big heat sink, and underneath this there'll be 2 M.2s. M.2 slots anyway. So we've got a screw here at this end. That appears to be the same as those other 2, but I'm gonna put these further up and these further back just in case they're different. And then one right here as well. Now, I don't know why, but they've sealed with tape. Usually, when they're sealing a component with tape, it's like what you do with air conditioning ducting to prevent the air from escaping. I'm not sure why they did that here, but you're going to lift this up and you're going to peel that tape back. Or for that matter, we could just leave it on there. You can see we've got 2 thermal pads. There's access to the Wi-Fi card right there. There's our first M.2 that's labeled PCIe 4x4, and the second one is also labeled PCIe 4x4. Let me come over to the close-up. Let me walk up to the camera, and give you a close-up. Okay. There's the back. Oh, don't want to drop it. Let's go here. There's all the ports in the back. And come around to the front, and that's what you got in the front. A USB Type-C and a Type-A. Let's see. Trying to put together something for a thumbnail. Focus is going to be a problem, not just for the camera. All right, get a freeze frame of that for later. So with that done, let me check email, and then we've got some RAM that came out of a probably another mini PC that I stuck in a package here just to keep it safe. This is Crucial RAM. It's 16 gigs of 4800 speed. That's all an Intel needs anyway. And it is, 8 gigs a piece for a total of 16. That'll be perfect for this. And then I've got a Feijing Gen 4 by 4, which is probably way faster than what this originally came with. 1 terabyte drive. And we'll put that in there. Of course, we'll have to put our operating system on, and we'll do that. And, our friend Frankie B sends an Amazon gift card. He says it's a little something to say thanks to you both for all you did for me and all you both do. And it's a very generous gift card. Thank you, Frankie. Maybe with that we can buy, there's one other mini PC I've had my eye on. I'm kind of looking in the $400 range. I feel like anything below that is too low in specs, and anything above it, as I mentioned, gets a bit hot and can be a bit noisy. So for me personally, when it comes to helping my average ordinary customers, whether they're home users or they are business clients, the Intel i5 is the way to go, or the Ultra 5, and right around the $400 sweet spot. And there was one I was looking at, I think the GMK Tech G8, that's a Ryzen 7, I want to say. That sort of fits. If it's a $400 machine, whether it's Intel or AMD, I feel like that should be what we're aiming at. That's the equivalent of the $800 computers we were building, in case you're curious. So when we were building those $800 computers 10 years ago, they're $400 today. As much as you might complain about how expensive things have gotten, the technology has advanced to the point where you're getting essentially a little bit better than, well, I'd say quite a bit better than what we were building 10 years ago for half the price. So even if the price was $100 cheaper 6 months ago, 8 months ago, it's still a good price. But if you're, clamoring to get the best you can get, or if you're so broke that you can't really afford anything, then it wouldn't. So if you're so broke, it doesn't really matter. If it's $25, it's $25 more than you have, you still can't afford it. So that's neither here nor there. That's on you. That's not on PC manufacturers. Nobody owes you a computer. You're not entitled to one. It's not a birthright. And then when you want excess and you have the means to afford it, and you don't mind the heat and the noise that typically go along with that because you're more of, let's say you consider yourself a power user, then you would justify spending twice as much money, maybe even more than that, because it's important to you. But overall, I would estimate probably that mid-range is probably the best. Well, actually, probably the budget range, the $300 computers probably sell more. Even though they're, in my opinion, far worse, they don't last as long. That's just the way the typical consumer is. They want to buy what's cheapest. They don't want to buy what's best. And then they get upset when what they bought is the cheapest, and they're comparing it, to people online that have the best. So they want the best, right? Nobody says I want. Well, very rarely would anybody say I want the cheapest thing possible. Just the poorest quality, the most limited to work on or upgrade, the shortest lifespan with the least amount of power. But what they want is they want to pay that, some people, and when they get it home, they somehow think it's going to be the same, and then they get disappointed oftentimes, a little bit of buyer's remorse, when they find out exactly what they just paid for. So for me anyway, going right down the middle, you're much more likely to be happy with your purchase for a longer period of time than if you go super cheap, where things just don't last as long and they're not as upgradable and they're very limited, or you go super expensive where things tend to depreciate quickly, run hot, and if you're going to have a loud fan, it'll be in a higher end machine. So right down that middle, you've got your $400 range. So maybe with Frankie B's contribution and a generous Amazon gift card, we can use that and pick one of those GMK techs up and review it. So thank you, Frankie. Thank you very much. And of course, thank you to Nick Caffrey as well, who sent in $10 via PayPal. Of course, our friend Buster and Mark Gaines, all of our members here. Thank you guys so much for your support as well, because as I mentioned, YouTube is more or less it's at a point now that unfortunately, I mean, I'm glad I'm not trying to start a YouTube channel right now. Let me put it to you that way. You might make $200 a month if you're really big, like 400,000 subscribers, and all you're doing is ad revenue. About $200 a month. 200, maybe 400. I don't know how much your house payment is, but that ain't gonna cut it month after month. So thankfully we have our supporters and we have the memberships that, again, things have changed. What used to be a model that was working really well stopped working for the people that were paying the money. And as a result, we've seen a lot of YouTube channels go away. Also, if you start a YouTube channel, I hope you're doing it for fun, because if you're doing it to earn a living, that boat kind of left already. I mean, if you can self-finance and build an audience at your own cost for as long as it takes, it's still doable. But it is very, very difficult. And the odds are against you because so many other people are competing against you today. But that being said, it's luckily we were sort of grandfathered in with an established community, and it's that community that keeps us around. Like we're on community's life support, and we can't thank enough our community for continuing to allow this channel to exist. Because when the community goes away, that's all that's left, right? So thank you guys so much. You have no idea what it means to me that so many people believe in this and really appreciate the honesty, the transparency, and the unbiased truth as a professional technician that I uniquely bring to an otherwise enthusiast and entertainment platform. So with that being said, let's get some parts installed here. This should take 2 seconds. Not literally, but let's take a quick look over here and see what we're working with. Now, I need my other glasses. Now, as I mentioned, I like the seller. And one of the things I get concerned about is if they remove the little screws that hold the M.2 drive in and they don't put them back. This seller put them back, thankfully. And in the video from Beelink, they show this slot closest to the edge is the one being used first. I don't think it matters, but I try to return it back to factory as much as possible. The factory had a reason, okay? That they didn't just willy-nilly slap a drive in either slot on the assembly line. They were specifically trained to take the NVMe drive and to put it in this slot on this model on the assembly line for some reason, and I don't know what the reason is. It could be just for easier assembly. It may be one of those situations that it doesn't really matter. But if that's the way the factory did it, then that's the way I'm going to do it, and I don't need to approve it. You understand? Like, if I worked at the factory building these and they were instructing me to put this here, who am I to tell the factory I know better than them? That's more of a personality disorder. So what I'm going to do is follow exactly the same building process. And then we've got 2 sticks, as I mentioned, of our crucial RAM. See, I don't mind that these are bare bones because this stuff was just sitting on a shelf collecting dust, so this will give it a purpose to exist now. And I can finally throw this package away that I've recycled. And we'll just put that in there like this. Now this says it wants 5600 megahertz RAM. It's got a sticker on it. That might be required. We're going to find out. It doesn't hurt me to try. So that one's going to go in face down. like that. And then this one, I'm going to assume goes in the same way, right? How bizarre. That is weird that it goes in face down like that. Anyway, so you just put it in on an angle. Make sure it's seated into the track, and then with both corners push down, and it'll just click right into place. Then we're going to put the heatsink back on. Don't tighten yet. We want to make sure we get both of these screws started first. We don't want it to be pushed down on one side too far. Once you get the other one started, then just snug it up. It doesn't have to be super tight. You're just making that connection between the bottom of the heatsink and the top of the NVMe drive. We'll grab the dust filter here. And that went on, which way was it? Something like... no. So the way this goes on, because I wasn't really paying attention, you've got a lip here. I don't know how well you can see that. There's these little tabs. 1 tab, 2 tabs, 3 tabs. And they're going to go towards me. So I've got the unit with the back facing me. Right underneath, where? Am I doing this right? I don't see anywhere for these tabs to lock in. Wouldn't go this way, would it? No. I mean, you can tell by the way this is rounded, in the way that these corners are rounded. It'll kind of give you an indication of which way that's got to go. And of course, you can look for the posts that screw down to hold us in position. But it doesn't seem like there's anything for this to... there's no tabs or slots for the tabs to slot into. It just seems like it goes like that. Might be missing something. It is just a dust filter anyway, so I don't think it matters much. But it does seem like maybe this was originally designed to have something for these tabs to lock into. But perhaps wasn't executed. So that looks like the direction that it's going to go on. Just like that. And then we'll go ahead and put these 2 screws back in. Remember, the other screws at the corners, those are going to be for the base. Now look, this thing may not turn on because I don't have the right speed. Well, I don't know if I have the right speed RAM. Those stickers might indicate what was in there from the factory, not necessarily what the machine needs to have. So we're going to find out. I have other RAM if need be. But they do show in their video, Beelink's disassembly video here on YouTube, that it did have Corsair RAM in it initially. It's pretty interesting how that works. Very interesting. Okay. Those little tabs really bother me. It does seem like something should be there for those to lock into, but everything is too far forward. So if I were to try and put those tabs underneath this board here, we'd be hanging out over the edge over here. I guess that's all there is. I'm probably overthinking it. So let's see if it'll fire up. Let's get this out of the way. Like I said, I'm going to leave the... I can put the bottom on and just, that way it's got a little breathing room to get that air up under there. And then we'll grab our power brick. Now, of course, I'm not a fan of the power going straight to a wall wart. I would much prefer more of a laptop style power brick where you have one cable that comes out of the brick and goes to the wall, and then another cable at the opposite end of the power brick that goes to the computer or the laptop. And when you deal with these, the problem is you have only one cable. This one's not bad as far as length. This might be about 6 feet. A lot of times they're shorter. They're like 4 feet, and it's very trying sometimes to, for me anyway, to get this plugged in and to run this cable the length it needs to go. Also, if you're plugging it into an outlet where there's another outlet below it, you're covering the outlet up, whereas a regular traditional plug wouldn't do that. That would then plug in here with a regular cable. This is a cost-saving thing, and nothing on this says Beelink, so you want to definitely get a marker or something out and write down what this is for, because in a move or with these two things ever separated, this type of barrel connector is very common, and yet the voltage, polarity, the amperage and wattage that come out of it, it's pretty rare that you find two that are exactly alike. But if you plug something in that's way more voltage or has reverse polarity, but the barrel connector still fits because they're so common, you could just totally set that on fire. Just let out the magic smoke. If you just take a minute, you get a silver Sharpie or a label maker and label this, you'll never have that problem. Let me get this plugged in. Let's plug the power in. Let's get a keyboard and mouse into this bad boy. I'll use one of the USB 2 slots back here. We're not going to plug internet into this at all. I do need to plug an HDMI cable in so we can capture it over on this machine over here. We'll see if we get a post on this. So here into the HDMI. What else do I need? Is that it? We're going to need a Windows 11 installation media if this boots, but we got to figure out if it boots first. So first of all, will it turn on? Power light has just come on. Kind of hard to see. Let's go over to the streaming computer over here. And let's see if I can get over there. Okay, so we're going to let that sit for a minute. Let me put camera 1 back up and put myself in a corner so we'll watch it together. Because the RAM is brand new, it's got to go through training. Here we go. I don't know what that was all about. That was interesting. So it's booting into the UEFI shell. Okay, that's fine. I haven't seen one do that before, but that means that the RAM seems like it's going to be fine. Let's grab Windows 11 installation media. Now remember, this would have shipped with Windows 11 on it, so we should not have to buy a license key. It should already be based on serial number, a license key assigned to this motherboard for the life of the board. So we'll use this port up here, I think is a faster one. And then let's hit Control-Alt-Delete over here. And this time when it boots, hopefully it doesn't take us to UEFI. Basically the system's like, okay, I've trained the RAM. I've tried to boot to your NVMe drive, but there's nothing on it, not a partition. It's like brand new out of the box. I got nothing to boot from. It's got no network to boot from. So in theory, now that I've added the USB drive, it'll sense that and automatically boot to it without us going into the BIOS and making any changes. And that's exactly what it's doing. The best thing you can do is stop trying to control things to such a minuscule kind of helicopter parent micromanager. You're driving yourself insane, and you're making your life more difficult than if you just go with the flow of the river, man. Just get in the boat. You know, it could be a paddle boat, and if you want to paddle, paddle. But don't paddle against the current. And if you want to stop paddling, just let the current take you. Life is so much easier when you learn how to benefit from using the flow instead of fighting against the flow. You can fight against it, especially when you're younger. But the older you get, the more tired you get, the less energy you have. And suddenly it becomes more, at least for me, more important to work smarter rather than work harder. Well, this is how I used to do it when I was a kid. Well, you're not a kid anymore. All right. So let me get rid of camera 1 here so I can see this whole screen. And open source projector, that looks good. My mouse. Okay, let's go through our Windows 11 installation process. And if it does not ask us what version of Windows we want, that means there's already a key embedded in the BIOS. That's our disk 0 unallocated 1 terabyte. Disk 1 is the USB drive we just booted from that has our Windows installation media. So we want to select disk 0. We want it to say unallocated space. We don't want to, if this was a used drive, we'd want to delete any disk 0 partitions until all we're left with is disk 0 unallocated. That completely erases the drive and starts over again as though it were new out of the box. That's what I want. So I hit next. It's going to give us a summary of what we're about to do. And I say, do it. Do it, lady. And do it, lady is a reference to the Chit Show. You guys watch the Chit Show? It's hilarious. You should check it out on YouTube. C-H-I-T. Do it, lady. All right, back to it then. Okay, sorry, I'm chitting out right now. Let's see what's going on in the chat room. Ben Laird joins us from Scotland. John Lewis joins us from Brazil, saying hello in the chat room. Montana 528 says hello. There's Dustin Fuller and Al Perez. Dennis K says hello here in the chat. Welcome in, everybody. Having a great Friday? I hope so. Frank Jimmy wants to know, how is a user supposed to see the message on the dust filter that says to clean it regularly if you can't see it when the cover, when the bottom's on? Fair point, Frank. I don't know. Maybe it's in the documentation that nobody reads. I wouldn't hold my breath on that either. Let's see. Andy said the thermal pads still have the clear film on them. I did not see any film on those thermal pads at all, but now you've got me. You plant a seed like that in my head and I'm going to be like, did I leave the oven on? I'm pretty sure I checked that, but now I'm going to have to recheck now that you said something. And if I check it and it's not there, I hope you feel bad doing that to me. On the other hand, if I check it and it is there, then my apologies, and I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. But we have to wait till this is done now. Bruce says this computer is available on Amazon with 64 gigs of RAM and a 2 terabyte drive for $1,200. Yeah, so keep in mind I paid $250, right? So that's a $950 price increase for 64 gigs of RAM and 2 terabytes. I think you could buy 64 gigs of DDR5 and 2 terabytes of RAM. Go on eBay and buy one of these for $250 or so, and you'll end up saving a lot of money than what you're finding there on Amazon. But if you go to Beelink and look to see if where are the specs, where is the product listing from last year that Beelink was using when they were selling this? Where's all the product materials at, the specs, the photos? Where's all that? If anybody can find it, please send it to us, because we've been looking for it. We can't find it anywhere. I don't like when companies erase their product history. It should be archived, and you should always be able to go back and look at the specs. It's not like it takes up that much space on the web server. So I don't know what they're thinking over there, but maybe it's an oversight or a mistake. I don't know. So Bruce says, oh, he's looking at a GTI 14, which is the same model, but with a different CPU. Yes, well, that's what I said in the very beginning. Maybe you weren't here and heard me. They will sell the same case in the same system with a different CPU. So you're looking at the Ultra 9, and I mentioned I don't buy the Ultra 9s because they tend to get too hot and too loud for my customer preferences. So I think that's where the disconnect is. So I'm trying to be very clear about this. I'm not a big fan when manufacturers don't change their model names. And this is exactly why. If there's two different versions of the SEi14 and one's an Ultra 5 and one's an Ultra 9, then the price difference is going to be staggering because the performance difference in the number of cores. An Ultra 9 is a flagship CPU, and a Core i5 is a sort of right down the middle CPU. Not low end, it's not high end. And so if you call something an SEi14, but then you spec it out with, even take the Mustang. If you buy a Ford Mustang, you can get it with a 4-cylinder engine, a 6-cylinder engine, or an 8-cylinder engine, but they generally have little designations to tell you what engine's in it. So a Mustang GT would have the 8-cylinder engine, for example. But that being said, I think the Mustang EcoBoost or something is the 4-cylinder, and the 6 may just be Mustang, I don't know. But the point is, Beelink did not do that with this model. And the fact that they've erased the i5 version of this, or the Ultra 5 version of it, from their website history suggests that they decided at some point, for some reason, to make this an Ultra 9 only. So that would explain the price difference. Okay, but it's the same case. It's and that's probably got the dual LAN on it, right? This one only has single LAN. Stuff like that you could do with a CPU with more lanes. So that you're going to pay extra for that. Bruce said, I just got here. Well, all you have to do, Bruce, is grab your mouse and drag it back to the beginning of the video. That's all you have to do. And if you want, you can play it back at 2 times normal speed, and you can catch up to us to see what you missed. Because if you interrupt, imagine a teacher's teaching a class and just went through this long dissertation on how to solve this mathematical equation. You walk in late, and you're like, oh, how do we do this equation? Well, that's why a lot of teachers will kick you out of the class and say, if you can't show up on time. Now, I'm not telling this to you. I'm just saying as a teacher, it's profoundly disrespectful. We love that you jumped in. If you want to participate, please catch up so that we're not just redirecting you to go back and you're not asking, you're not asking the same questions we've already answered and that you missed, just for the courtesy of everyone else. And then once you're caught up, then we're good, So I would assume before you ask any questions, we've probably already answered it until you go back and verify. That's all I'm trying to say. All right, with that, we got a message here. It says, it looks like, what does it say? Right click, full screen on that. Can't read it. Looks like you started an upgrade and booted from the installation media. If you want to continue, remove the media. Okay, let's take that out. And then click yes. So for some reason, it still wants to boot to the USB drive. It should have automatically booted to the NVMe drive. I'll have to check the BIOS settings. It could have been changed by the prior owner. That should have happened automatically if it hadn't been changed. I don't know. I'm just guessing. What's normal? That's not normal to see that unless somebody changed it. So we'll have to go in and verify and potentially change it back. Now, this time when it boots, it should continue the Windows installation. It already copied everything it needed off of the flash drive, so we can put that away. And then those installation files will now execute and begin to install Windows now. All we were doing in the first part of installing Windows was moving, formatting the drive, partitioning, formatting, and moving over the installation files. That's it. You're done with the flash drive. It reboots, and then it says installing on the second boot. It doesn't say it's installing. I don't think it says it's installing on that first initial sequence. I think what it says is it's preparing the install. And then when it reboots, that's when the install actually starts. Nick Caffrey joining us from Ireland. Elijah Dickens says, refusing all of my cards to send you a gift card. Well, Mara may be able to help you with that. However, you have to go to Amazon.com. It can't be an Amazon in another country. It's got to be the US version of Amazon. And if you don't have an account on the US version of Amazon, you'll need to create one. And then after that, you should be able to make your purchase unless you have credit cards that don't allow purchases in another country. See, I don't know what country you're in. If you're in the USA and you have US-based credit cards with US-based banks and you're on the US-based Amazon, I can't see why it would turn you down. I don't run Amazon. I don't have any say in the policies or procedures that they execute there or that they enforce. But I'm sure if you reached out to Amazon customer service, they've always been very helpful anytime we've ever reached out to getting us a solution. We appreciate the attempt. You know, it's the thought that matters. We're spending the money in Amazon anyway, you know, so we certainly appreciate it. Chris Garrett joins us along with Andy Kane saying hello. All right, our installation looks like it is finalizing. So let me finish this up. This is all pretty boilerplate stuff for me right now. You've seen me do this lots of times. So yes on that, yes on that, skip that. I don't have internet. Not yet. We get to the desktop first. For the username, I'll put USER. Seems like a good username. A blank password because I don't want to hassle. I just want to go to the desktop. And I keep everything off except location settings. That'll make sure my date and time are always updated, even during daylight saving, and it just makes my life less stressful. So we'll change, turn all that off except for location, accept, and finalize our installation. Once we get to the desktop, then I can go ahead and put the Ethernet cable into it. And at that point, we can look in the device manager. We can see how this is really spec'd out because obviously our notes need to be corrected. So we'll figure out, is this a 1 or a 2.5 gig LAN? Is it Realtek? Is it Intel? We're this close from finding out. And we're going to be missing some drivers, inevitably. I'm not quite sure which drivers are missing until we get this done. And then we want to go to Windows Update, run through a series of updates, see if the missing drivers get applied automatically. A reboot, check the device manager again. If everything's cool, we're good to go. If it's not so cool, then there is a Beelink support system. The website seems to be broken, and it seems like it's been broken for about half a year now. So it's not like they're working on it. It's like they worked on it and stopped. Essentially, it'll ask you for a name and a password to access the downloads. And if you just ignore it and refresh the page, it goes away. So they got a problem there. Secondly, once it goes away, it lists every single folder for every single model. And in each folder are the drivers for each model. So you can't get model specific through the website like you're supposed to. You just get what looks like an FTP directory in your browser, which is something, but it's not at the level that we used to see from Beelink a couple years ago. So there's been some changes happening over there. And I don't know if it's a struggle. I don't know what's going on over there, if they laid a bunch of people off that used to do this work and now nobody's doing it anymore. But it remains in a state of unfinished process. It's not the polished website it used to be. We'd love to see Beelink get back to that professional, public-facing website that they used to have, but we don't have any control over it. We don't know why it's in the state, and we know it's been that way for at least 6 months. So I don't know if anything's going to happen anytime soon, or whether or not it's impossible because they're, you know, if money is that tight, if that's the reason they're doing it, then it's going to stay that way indefinitely until somehow the money problem gets solved. On the other hand, you know, if there was a move or a shakeup, you'd think within 6 months that'd be done by now, wouldn't you? So that's disappointing because they were once, you know, having the ideal proper website, and we expect them to get better. We don't expect them to go the other way, but we don't even know that we need it yet. So let's check and see the status of things. Let me get rid of camera 1 for a second, and let's go over here and take a look at our device manager and see what's going on here. So in our device manager, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 unknown devices. That's significant. Now, a lot of these are going to be taken care of automatically with the Intel chipset driver. Some of these may be taken care of automatically with a Windows Update. And we just have to, just do Windows Update first. It's free, it's easy, and we have to do it anyway. After we do our first round of Windows Updates, we reboot and then see how many of the 9 are remaining. For all we know, they all might go away. But how are we going to get online if the Ethernet controller isn't being recognized, right? Well, obviously the Wi-Fi controller is being recognized, and that appears to be an Intel Wi-Fi 6 AX200. So that driver was built into our Windows install from Microsoft, but the LAN is not. So what I need to do, let me come over here to camera 1 and I'll show you. I have a little USB Ethernet adapter, and I have them in Type C and in Type A. Let's go over to camera 1, full screen. Actually, probably go to camera 2. And when I plug this in, the driver will load automatically. The drivers that these use, these are like $10 to $20, and they never expire. You can use it forever. So for situations like this, what I like to do is just plug it into any USB port, and then I'm going to grab my Ethernet cable. Now you guys could just get on your Wi-Fi, but I'm not doing that on a live video for obvious reasons. And then plug that in. And then when we go back over to this machine, we should get the little globe down in the right corner, right there, and then it changes to a little monitor, and now we're online. So now I can go to Windows Update. And then once either Windows Update will provide us that driver for the Ethernet that's built in, or we'll go grab it from Beelink's website, or from Intel's website, quite frankly. And then we won't need that USB adapter beyond that point. So just something to prepare for if you're following a similar process at home. I need to make this small again. Hold on. Put myself back down there. And then I like to make a few changes here. These are my preference changes. I like to turn this on. Oh, yeah, see, we're getting a bunch of drivers here. Looks like Realtek network card driver and a Wi-Fi driver update too. All right, so let's go back. So turn that on, and then we'll go to advanced options. There may be some more drivers here. It says there's 5 available. We'll grab them all. This is why we don't do this with any printers or other accessories, or you're just gonna run yourself right into a wall. So we just do one bite at a time. Don't try and shove the entire sandwich in your mouth. You might choke and die. Okay, so one bite at a time, folks. Let's go back to advanced, and then we're gonna turn on, I like this on, I like this on, and I like this on. And the delivery optimization, I like that to be off because we're not in an office. While that's going on, updates are still processing. And let me check my power settings because I don't want the computer to go to sleep on us while we're live. So edit power plan. Yeah, see, that was set to 5 minutes. I'll set that to 2 hours. Never put a computer to sleep that doesn't have batteries. That's to save batteries. Since this doesn't have any batteries to save, it's a stupid thing to turn on, as far as I'm concerned as a tech, because that is a future support call. You are inevitably going to have a problem with that. Even if you're like, oh, I haven't had a problem with it, I would finish your sentence with the word yet. You will, and for no benefit, by the way. But the other thing, I like to check this change what the power buttons do. I like when I hit the power button for the machine to shut off, and that used to be the default. So when I press the power button, shut off, You can make your choice. I like shut off. When I press the sleep button, when's the last time you've seen a computer with a sleep button? So it doesn't really matter what I change that to. But my OCD says, just in case a sleep button were to magically appear and someone accidentally pressed it, how's that for a scenario? Then I want you to do nothing. Okay, that should be the default out of the box as far as I'm concerned, the way Windows installs. But what do I know? I don't make those decisions at Microsoft, and Microsoft could give a rat's behind what I think. So I'm the little guy in this, and I have to get out of the way of the big guy, or he's going to run me over. Right? He ain't stopping. He ain't going to go around me, and I can scream and yell all I want. They find it amusing if they even notice your existence at all. So if you want to get something done, do it yourself. Get out of the thing's way. Don't wait for somebody else to do something and then be pissed off when it doesn't happen, or you're in for a world of disappointment until you get off your butt and you do it yourself. And if that means I have to keep changing back Microsoft settings to the way that used to be defaults, because I have no control over Microsoft changing it, me venting it out on social media or whining to Microsoft is going to do nothing but waste my time on earth. I have other things to do. That's not my job. I don't get paid for it. I get paid to take care of my customers. And I can't rely on somebody else to do that, because if I did, then why wouldn't my customers? And then they wouldn't need me anymore, would they? So think of all these things you're complaining about potentially as reasons why, at least in my case, I have customers, or you have a purpose. And if something matters to you and you're not in charge, and you're going to get upset because somebody didn't do what you said, that'd be like me getting upset because you didn't do what I said. If you're not in a position of authority, expect resistance. Just take care of it yourself. There's no resistance when you just get off your butt and do it. And you'll often take a fraction of the amount of time complaining about it takes. And then just move on to the next thing. Life is filled with so many options. Why lock into one for too long? That's my attitude anyway. Path of least resistance. Go with the flow, get her done, move on to the next thing. Dan says Beelink stopped being relevant on the mini PC market when they started to ramp up their prices and specs. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been really paying attention. Andy counters and says Beelink is still competitive, completely disagrees with the other commenter. The SEi14 Max is almost the king of the hill mini PC in Andy's opinion. So you've got two varying opinions in our own chat room, where somebody says they're irrelevant and somebody says they're a flagship leader for others to attain such greatness. Who's right and who's wrong? And Dan says, well, I wouldn't say they aren't competitive. They're just not as relevant as they used to be. Maybe in your world, but I would say they're, I don't know how you're defining the word relevant. Like worldwide, or relevant to you personally, relevant in awareness. I don't understand that statement. I'm not picking on you. I just don't know what you mean. I don't know, who would you consider relevant by comparison? Something you use personally, or how are you? I'm just curious how you're coming up with such a bold statement as if it were fact, because it's definitely not a factual statement. That's definitely coming from a subjective viewpoint, but I'm just trying to figure out what that is. So as we wait for these updates to install, or just engaging in the chat, sort of biding my time and seeing if there's other comments or questions we can read aloud to share. Dan says they lost the market to Geekom. So where are you getting your information from? You're under the impression Geekom has a bigger market share? Have you done any research, or you're just basing your comments coming up. Your comments are coming across as though you are talking about facts, but what you're saying sounds like feelings. And you can feel however you want to. But let's just Google, because we got nothing else to do. What is Geekom market share? You could be right. Let's just look it up. Geekom is rapidly growing, reporting a 208% year-over-year revenue growth in the third quarter of 2023. While specific overall percentage market share figures are not publicly disclosed. Let's see. They are focused on premium and niche mini PCs, which, let's face it, the vast majority of people buying computers around the planet are not buying premium and they're not buying niche. So if all you're looking at is niche and premium and that's your gauge for measure and comparison, then you're not representative yourself of a typical buyer. But let's see, what is Geekom market share versus Beelink? Let's see what it says about that and see if anybody's bigger or smaller. Beelink holds a higher, more established market share in the mini PC sector compared to Geekom, largely driven by its aggressive pricing. That's what the planet is buying based on, majority-wise, is price alone. Not on niche, not on enthusiast models. They have a massive variety of models, often via its manufacturer, AZW, and a reputation as a budget-conscious leader. While Beelink is considered the market's midpoint for buyers who want a proven, affordable name, Geekom has gained significant market share in 2025 and 2026 by positioning itself as a more reliable premium alternative with better support. So that's the crux of it right there. If you're willing to pay more money for an attitude, if you believe something is built better, it's higher quality, then why do you need support? Like it doesn't make any sense to put those two things together. It's higher quality with better support. Well, you're going to pay for one or the other. You're not paying necessarily for both because you wouldn't need one if you already had the other. So that statement is kind of a circular logic in that. So Beelink is consistently one of the top-selling brands on platforms like Amazon and a high-volume producer. They're known for providing the most specifications for the lowest cost, though sometimes with just a one-year warranty. Now, Geekom's a fast-growing brand that's considered more premium, often featuring better build quality like metal cases. So that's what we've got here. 3-year warranty and higher-end internal components, but you're going to pay more for that, right? You're paying for the extra warranty and you're paying for higher-end internal components, which your average buyer will not buy because it's going to cost more. Market status, Beelink dominates the budget mid-range segment, while Geekom is carving out a larger share in the mid to high-end range. Well, there you go. So you're half right. If you only want to look at half of it, then you're 100% right. Okay. That all makes sense to my experience. That aligns to exactly what I was expecting. It's not that either one of them's bad or necessarily struggling. All mini PC makers are kind of struggling in equality right now with the cost of components and the economy being what it is, with consumers just not spending like they once were. So with that in mind, it's always welcome to see a manufacturer carve out a niche for themselves. But if you're not interested in that particular niche, that manufacturer is completely worthless and off the table from your perspective versus somebody else. But when we make videos here on YouTube, we're making them for the planet. We're not making them, I'm personally not making videos just for the elite. And I'm also not personally making videos just for budget conscious people. What I'm trying to do is make people aware that there are different options that exist because, and fill in the blank. People don't often understand why is a Geekom and Beelink and Minis Forum and Ace Magic if they're all the same. They're not all the same. It's like saying, well, all country music sounds the same. Yes, that's why That's why it's called country music. It falls within a certain type of genre that if you don't listen and you're not picking up the nuances, you can't see the forest through the trees. And you're so focused on oversimplicity, then you have no interest or motivation to educate what we'll call ignorance in being able to determine the differences. If every dog looks at, well, that's a golden retriever, they all look alike. If you got to know the golden retriever, you would be able to tell that specific one apart from any of the others. You would pick up on the nuance. But if you're not interested and you don't care, then your opinion on the matter doesn't really matter to anybody else, because your opinion is based on an oversimplification that completely disrespects the values that others who respect it find a bit offensive, right? So that doesn't mean, like I said, it doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means to have some perhaps self-awareness that you have a particular preference and bias that isn't universally something we all can agree on. And with that stated, as a, hey, I prefer this and I prefer that, that's great. But to boldly make a statement that this is better than that, it's not true. That's subjective. So I appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us. I just wish they were a little bit more considerate to allowing other people to fully understand what you're trying to convey that is important to you, but may potentially not be important to anybody else. What you value, somebody else may throw in the trash. All right, that's all I'm saying. You could say, this is the most valuable asset in the world, and it isn't. But you could say, this is my most valuable asset. But to somebody else, they'd say, why are you saving garbage? You see, it kind of hurts your feelings, right? It's kind of disrespectful. They're oversimplifying whatever it is you see in that. And it's their ignorance. But it works the other way too. So anyway, be aware when you're seeing comments online or watching reviewers online, there's often a bias in there. And I try really hard to counterpoint myself. Whatever I'm saying something, I'm also trying to think of the opposite, that is the equal to and opposite of. The front side of a dollar bill and the back side of a dollar bill are still the same dollar bill. You might prefer one side over the other, but it doesn't change its actual value or the fact of what it is, simply because you choose to see it differently. That is a freedom of choice and a perspective. And not all of us share, probably very few of us share the same perspective in many things. It's all good. Okay, is this thing done yet? Let's see. Looks like it's still installing something. It's getting an update. 91%. Okay, we're getting there. Almost there. I'm looking through the chat to see what other comments or questions I may have missed. This thing is not even warm. It's basically room temperature. I very slightly hear a fan. It's very, very quiet. The case is gorgeous. The problem with the metal case is it's definitely going to interfere with the range rather of the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi. A metal case is a shield, and the shield is the opposite of what you want to do if you want long range for your radio signals that come out and go into this with Wi-Fi. which means that if you were to put this at a distance from your router, it may not pick up the signal as well as something else made of plastic placed a similar distance from the router. A couple of ways to solve that would be to buy a USB network interface card, Wi-Fi network interface card. Just plug it into a USB port. That'll solve it. Or move the computer closer to the router, move the router closer to the computer, or buy a better router. For anybody that complains that the metal casing is reducing their Wi-Fi range, that means they're already probably too far with the kind of router they have. So either move the router, move the unit closer to the router, buy a wireless USB NIC, or replace the router. Buy a newer router. Newer routers don't have the range issues of the older ones. Speaking of routers, a Russian hacking group is really targeting TP-Link routers. They are pretty easy to break into if you've never updated your router. If your router comes from your internet service provider, then you don't do anything with it. That's the internet service provider's duty. But if you bought your own router, I hope you're updating it. That's all I can tell you. Most people don't, and that's why the FCC is cracking down on this, and the end users have brought this on themselves. But they're just ignorance of it. They just ignore it, and they end up becoming part of an attack network, and they're not even aware their router is working for the Russians. They can't be bothered. They don't care because it doesn't affect them. In the meantime, the FCC has to step in and say, okay, you guys can't buy any more routers. You can't be trusted. You can't have this responsibility, so we're going to do it for you now. It's like treating people like children. All of you adults are acting like children. You have no idea how much harm you're causing to the world around you. Now, I don't necessarily agree with this tactic, but I understand they didn't just pull this out of thin air. So no matter how many times we talk about it, people aren't going to do it. And as long as people aren't going to do it, then the adults have to step in the room and punish the children. And until behavior of society changes, we can expect more and more parenting from the government until we, as ourselves as a society, take on responsibility to become adults. So will that happen in my lifetime? I don't know. I don't know. But I hope all of you watching this, if you have your own routers, that is, something you went out and you bought, that you are going to take a minute and update that router today, or you've done it recently. Otherwise, as far as I'm concerned, you're part of the problem, and you're part of the reason why the FCC has to do this. So I hope nobody here fits into that category. We should, all of us here in this community should know better. But the world at large does not watch this channel, and ignorance is bliss. There's no malice. They just don't know, and they don't care. So when the FCC says, well, now you can't get any new routers for a while, and the price of the ones that are out there goes up, then they start caring. Well, it was their fault. They caused it. Right. I'm not necessarily agreeing that this is the right solution, but I understand. What else can you do when people don't listen and they just won't, they can't be bothered? You're going to have to do it for them, and you're not going to do it for free. All right. That seems to be the mentality of the FCC. Lou Greeny has said, I have the Asus PT10 mesh router update itself. So a lot of times the routers we're talking about, Luke, they're routers people bought years ago, and they've just never touched them. They plugged them in. They don't dust them. They don't check them. It's plugged in and forgotten about for years and years and years. These are the people specifically we're talking about. People that have higher end routers, like, you have a $1,000 router, these routers tend to do much better at taking care of themselves. And the people who buy them typically know they're buying a higher end router and typically know the importance of updating it and why that router is worth so much money. These aren't the people that are causing the problem. It's the people buying the cheap stuff. They bought it because it's cheap. They don't really understand what they bought. They don't understand what updates are or how to apply them or why that's their responsibility. And here we are. So yeah, I think if you have a mesh router, that's a new enough router, it should update itself universally. So we're talking about routers, 4 or 5 years old and older that people are still foolishly using today without updating. And, it's led to the FCC reacting because there's just no other, unless you have any ideas, what else can you do? If people are going to constantly cause harm to society through their abusing of a product, you got to really put it on the manufacturers to force auto updates, whether the end users like it or not. Again, we got to start treating these consumers now as children because they are en masse behaving like children. They don't want to take any responsibility. They want to just be as lazy as possible, spend as little as possible, and do as little as possible. And because there's so many people behaving that way in the United States, there's quite a political rift between those of us that want to get work done and those of us that want to sit on the couch and have other people do the work, and we benefit from it. And that's where you run into your very strong political drivings on, literally 50% of this country wants to go to work and wants to get things done. And the other majority, the other 50%, doesn't want to get off the couch. I don't know what to do about it. It's very strange. All right, we're ready to reboot. But it's weird that we're living in such good times that so many Americans can just sit on a couch. I never saw that in my life. I never saw this amount of non-working people who still aren't homeless. Like, how does that work? Who's paying the bill? I don't understand. And how can I be a part of that? I'm not complaining about it. I'm jealous. Thankfully, I love what I do. So we'll let this update, reboot, and we're going to check the device manager and we'll see what we're looking at for drivers. I think Mara does have that link to Beelink in our video notes. Let me go take a look since we're waiting. Yeah, so in the video notes it says downloads, and there's a link to dr.b-link.cn, which I think is CN is China, isn't it? And if I bring that up, let me just show you what it does. I'll show you how it's broken, and just, you don't have to take my word for it. It takes you to a place for the downloads, right? It says username and password. What are they talking about? What is this? So if I go up here and I hit the refresh button, watch what happens. Nothing happens. You gotta love these live videos. Here we go. I refreshed it again. All of a sudden, it's not asking for a name and password anymore. This is a little embarrassing for a company the size of Beelink with the history they have. To me, this is like somebody you've known as a really smart and capable person suddenly starting to deteriorate, where they can't do anything anymore. They can't think very sharply anymore. It's almost like they have Alzheimer's. I'm not sure, but watching them degrade is making me sad. But I hope that they fix everything and that this is temporary. But as I mentioned, it's been at least 6 months now. And I want to see Beelink return back to be what they once were. And I want to see them be better than that. So we're currently under a folder here that Mara has pointed us to this specific model, the SEi14 125H. But if you notice, if you go to uploads, we've got all the models here. Like here's the GTR model, and there's all the varying submodels. GTR Pro, GTR 6900, right? Depending on which CPU it has. Let's go back to uploads. We go back to SEi14. So there's all the SEI models, right? Look at all the SEI models. So we're looking for the specific 125H because there is an SEi14, that's the Ultra 9. So that's the link Mara has provided us. Interestingly, it's still asking for a username and password down here, but it's not restricting our access. So if we look under BIOSes, for example, what is all of this? See, this is a mess. So first of all, anything from 2024, I'm going to ignore. This looks like the top is the latest. Use USB to flash. That's a document. Only T20X can flash, solve Linux issue. I don't know what that. There's another PDF. Note, only original BIOS version is T20X can flash ROM. PDF file again. So we have the same PDF file, looks like 3 times. So where's the BIOSes? It looks like there was a T114 here, a T118, T11, and T20. So the X means whatever the third number is. So 11X right here. T11X this would be 11X, this would be 11X, this would be 11X where it says 119. Right? That's what the X stands for. The X is a variable, like in math, in algebra. 2 plus X equals 4. What is X? All right, so here, 202 would be 20X. PDFs are documents. It even has a little document. You got the Word logo, and then these are zipped files. The zip files probably contain the actual BIOS. So it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 BIOSes. It goes to T203 is the latest. So we can run CPU-Z and we can identify which BIOS we have. Now, yes, it was in the news earlier last night that CPU-Z was compromised. The website was compromised. But within 6 hours of that being reported, it's all been undone. So if you downloaded CPU-Z or what is it, Hardware Info, the other app they make, within the last 24 hours, don't run it. But if you downloaded it beyond 24 hours ago, you're fine. Your previous copy's fine. And if you download it right now, it's fine. It's just, you know, again, the news media, the tech websites, they grab every morsel of news and they report it as though it's something you need to worry about. But how many people downloaded CPU-Z in that little window of 6 hours that it was infected? Anyway, I mean, I'm glad they let it out, but still, now the problem is going to be people aren't going to realize it's already been fixed. Welcome to my world, huh? All right, let me get back over here and get back to camera 1. It looks like we've rebooted. It looks like we've got a new video driver because it looks like we're in 4K. Let's take a look here in the device manager. Okay, still quite a bit of devices here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 devices. Let me change my resolution because it's a little hard for me to see in 4K. So we'll go to display settings, change that to 1080. There we go. And I want to get rid of that wallpaper. In theory, we should be activated. It won't let me change the wallpaper if we're not activated. It says you need to activate Windows before you can personalize your PC. Okay, so that means, let's take a look here. Actually, we just searched the term activation. That normally happens automatically. And the reason it may not be happening yet is because of the lack of chipset drivers. So here's what I want to do. Because it did not ask us what version of Windows we wanted, it clearly detected a product key during the install. Otherwise, it would have said, do you want Home or Pro? And it never asked us. So we do have a key in there, but something's preventing us from getting activated. And the other thing I'm curious about is, did we get the Ethernet controller driver? Let me take a look in here one more time before I go too far. Look under network adapters and see if the Intel, yeah, it's an i226. So it is a 2.5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug my USB adapter. We don't need it anymore, and we'll plug directly into the back of the computer now. And this can go back in my drawer for another rainy day, and we get on with life. If I watch the bottom right corner, well, you can't see it because my screen is there, isn't it? We want to see that little terminal, little computer monitor appear right there, which is already, it did that while I was covering it up with my camera, and it obtained an IP address, and that's working as it should. So we did get some of the drivers automatically from Windows Update, but still quite a few missing. So where do we start? I wouldn't worry about the BIOS just yet, because that's not going to have any impact on the drivers. I would go back to Windows Update and just look and see if it wants to offer us any more drivers right now. So let's do that real quick. And we'll go over to HDMI 3. That's this guy here. Full screen so I can see it the way you guys at home get to see it, instead of in a preview window. Okay, yeah, I can definitely see it now. Let's go to Windows Update, and all of these retries probably occurred because it was already downloading this automatically in the background, and when we forced it, it was trying to install it twice. So the secondary installs will fail because the primary install that was happening automatically that we didn't know about finished first. You'll know if these come back again, but if they go away, that means that the prior version was installed and you don't need, this would be a duplication in most cases. So just keep an eye on these and see if they reoccur in retry. I'm gonna bet you they're not gonna reoccur because they've already installed. Okay, let's see what happens. Realtek, see, there's a driver update right there. And if we scroll down under advanced options, do we see any others? No, we're still at 0 here. Okay, very good. So when it comes to the rest of these drivers, probably the Intel chipset driver will take care of a lot of it. Now, we can go to Beelink and we can download their drivers and do it that way, but I'm curious. So what I'm going to do is we'll start up Microsoft Edge here while we're waiting for those updates to install. And we're going to go up here and we'll just type in Intel chipset driver. And Intel does a great job of just putting all the chipset drivers in one package, so you're not sitting there searching for which chipset and everything. So we want chipsets. And we want, let me go back. I think I clicked on something wrong. Intel chipset software installation utility. That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay, download chipset. That's it. You don't have to answer a bunch of questions like AMD that a lot of people have no idea what any of that stuff means. Most people don't even know what a chipset is. So anyway, let's go ahead and open that file. It's only 100 megs, so it's pretty quick to download on a broadband connection. And let's close this out so we don't have too much clutter on the screen. Our updates have installed, so let's close that out. And let's do our chipset drivers. Just hit next and accept until you're through it. Install. Let that run through. We're going to reboot and we're going to check Device Manager again. Will this take care of everything in the Device Manager? I honestly don't know. I suspect we'll probably have 1 or 2 things left over, but maybe not. I'm not trying to solve problems before I have them. So interestingly, it's not asking for a reboot after this, but I ain't playing that game. You'll be chasing your tail when all you had to do is reboot. So let's restart it, and then we'll take a look again in the Device Manager and see where we're at with that. And then, of course, barring that, we would always just go back to Beelink for any drivers, or we could do it the hard way and manually look up hardware identifiers in the device managers, missing, in the properties area, the missing drivers. If you really want to spend time and work hard, if you want to pretend like it's 1998, I'm there to tell you, have fun. When you're paid by how long it takes you to do something, the motivation to get it done quicker when you're doing this for a living is a convenience to both your customer and to yourself, that you can get paid sooner and help the next customer sooner, so you can get paid again sooner. You see what I'm getting at? So we're really trying to work as efficiently as we can, but not so quickly that we're sloppy and we leave things unfinished or broken. Otherwise, you're coming back for a second visit, which then is inconvenient for the customer, and it's inconvenient for you because you can't really charge for that. I mean, you could try, but you probably will lose that customer for life. They've already paid you to do it once. You didn't do it right. You're going to lose customer confidence. So we're going to go back into Device Manager, see where we're at now. Well, still quite a number of devices. Now, I don't know what an ISP camera device is. That's bizarre. Multimedia controller, a PCI device, and an unknown device. So here's what I would do to solve that, is I would go back to the Beelink site. And I don't remember what the site is. So what I'll do is I'll go to YouTube, and I'll type in Carey Holzman, all one word, and then I'll type SEi14, enter, and that should pull up the video that we're on right now. Yeah, it says we're live. I'll click on that. I'm going to go over here, and right where it says more, I'm going to see the video notes. And right here it says downloads. I'm going to click on that. That'll take us to the SEi14 folder. Once again, it wants us to log in. I'm going to hit refresh. See, a lot of people, they throw in the towel. They just go, oh, I can't get in there. They don't even try a couple different attempts. So I've had to refresh twice. We'll go to driver. And we've got RAID as well. Oh, that makes sense. This does have 2 NVMe slots. So if you wanted it run in RAID 0, RAID 1, you could do that. I think you'd have to be a glutton for punishment if you did. So there's your tutorial on how to set that up as a document. There's your driver on how to configure to load Windows into a RAID array, which I think is one of the worst decisions you could ever make. But hey, you do you. And then this is our drivers at 2.31 gigs. It's a zip file. That's what I want. I'll click on it. And up here at the top, you'll see it's downloading. Now, what's interesting is Beelink is not putting this off to Google Drive or something like a lot of small PC manufacturers do. This looks like they're self-hosting on their own servers, so our download speed is not terrible. It's not great. It's not terrible. And that'll take about 8 minutes. So while that is running, let me jump back over to the chat room here and see what I'm missing out on. Jim Kenny's asking, on the BIOS page of the Beelink download site, was there like page 1, page 2, page 3? This looks like it's kind of a file listing where everything appears on screen. I think you're confusing a website with an FTP list. And what I think we're looking at is an FTP list. An FTP list, to my knowledge, doesn't do the page 2, page 3, page 4, where things are split. It's just one long screen of, you know, everything in the directory. I can go back and look. I mean, we're just waiting anyway. Let me get back over here. Where is it? Oh, I've been there the whole time. Sorry, I'm looking on 2 different screens. Let me go full screen. And we'll go back to BIOS. Oh, so it does. So what it's doing, you are correct in that it's not listing. It's saying it's showing us 1 through 10 out of 13 files. So it's not a full FTP listing at all. But we can come over here and we can say show us 500, and you'll see the page 1, 2, and 3 go away. So we're both kind of right in that. The default was set to 10, and I didn't even notice it, and I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. What we see, these last 3 that weren't showing, is a document, a text file, and a document. So I don't see anything useful, especially since we're looking at the latest, right? So normally if something's going to be the latest, you're not going to have more than 3 or 4 files, maybe not even more than 2. So like the latest were these 2 here, released on the 15th of September, and then the 16th of January. It looks like there's 4 files. Basically, one in theory would overwrite the ones before it, and these are here for archival purposes. But again, there can be some differences with, well, that's a RAID driver update, but that's a firmware update for the Thunderbolt, but that's a firmware update for the BIOS, but that's a firmware update for GISA. You know what I'm saying? Like there still could be multiple files that were posted months apart that are for entirely different things. And so one's the latest update for one thing and the other's the latest update for another. So it's always good to check, but to go back that far to 2024, I would assume we'd already have that update, that would have been how it shipped out of the factory. But by assuming, you really need to verify if it's important to you. So that's what we can use CPU-Z for, just to verify what we have, at least with regards to the BIOS version. But yeah, I'm surprised that actually had that page 1, page 2, because if I recall, when we went to the upload section, I thought it just showed us everything. Yeah, it does. So why isn't that limited to 10? You know, I can't even change it. So they're inconsistent. I didn't even notice that until you pointed it out. There you go. What were we doing? We were doing Windows updates, right? No, we were doing driver download. Did our driver download complete? Or is it still working? Still working. All right, we'll keep an eye on that. About 3 more minutes. Nick Cadbury said, Carey, most people think of their computer like a refrigerator or a Hoover. Time that PC manufacturers bite this bullet. I mean, you don't have to update your icebox, TV, or lawnmower. Well, I think Android is a good example of a consumer device that updates itself whether you like it or not. And Microsoft's been working towards that. And yes, I've said for years, if you go back to 2005, 2006, in the videos I was doing live presentations on stage to a live audience, there in person, over and over and over and over and over again, I said, your computer is not a toaster. It is not an appliance. You cannot put it in a closet for 6 months because you decided to be a snowbird. A lot of these people I'm talking to are retired people. They live in Arizona part-time. When the state they normally live in, half of the year is snowy and cold, they come out to Arizona during the wintertime where the weather's not too terrible here. But then when Arizona gets scorchingly hot, then they go back home to their home state. And what they'll do is they'll often leave a printer or leave a computer rather than drag it back and forth. And I'm like, when you guys come here after abandoning this place for 6 months without anybody maintaining it, checking on things, you know, you can expect things not to work. So a computer that hasn't been updated in 6 months, it hasn't been turned on, your printer ink is going to be all dried up and jammed. This is because you don't use it every day. It's not a toaster. You take that toaster from 1945 that's been passed on from generation to generation in your family, and you plug it in the wall, hasn't been turned on in 30 years, and it still works perfectly fine. That's not what a computer is, and that's not how the internet works. Nobody's hacking your toaster. Well, nobody's hacking an old toaster. Anyway, sometimes people don't fully grasp the concept of what the internet is and the threats that are constantly evolving at a rate that's imperceivable to the human mind. What was safe yesterday may not be safe today, and such is the thing. It's like a living thing at an explosive rate of evolution and growth. It's nothing like we've ever had anything to really compare it to as a human species. So I understand some people have a hard time understanding the concept, but they don't need to understand it. Their understanding is optional. Just follow the simple steps. Unless you want to be a victim, then you'll follow these steps so you will less likely be a victim. But if you have to understand why, go to school, take a class on it. Nobody's stopping you. But it's far too complex to explain to people without having like a good semester of an adult college, something where you're not necessarily building towards a degree on, but it's nothing you can explain in one session. It's something that you have to keep going back. And if someone says, well, that's too complicated, I don't want to be involved. Great. Then just, the advice is out there to help you. If you want to turn it away, then you're doing it to yourself. And if the reason you're turning it away is because you don't understand it, but you don't want to put the effort into understanding it, it's still back on you again. So again, it leads to the FCC creating these rules that basically state, since people are not going to take responsibility, we're going to do it for them, and we're going to have to be their parents and treat them like the children they're behaving like. And it's where we're at right now in 2026. It'll be great to look back in this video in 15 or 20 years and go, wow, you guys used to live like that? And, I mean, that's the best you can hope for, is a generation will grow up going, that's what your generation did? That's what people did in 20 years? That's what they used to do? Oh, that's nothing to be admired by future generations. Wow. Anyway, here we are. I think we got our file. Let's go open that up. That'll be in our downloads folder. So let's do this. Let's just close all this. And we'll go to downloads and we'll extract these drivers. Hit extract all. Here we go. That's a lot of drivers. Now, a lot of these drivers we already have, but you can do this a couple of different ways. We can, in the old school way, the way you might have been taught is that what we would call the hard way today, right? Those of us that work in the industry would say, wow, when did you learn how to do this? 2000? So if we go to the device manager, what some old school people who hold on to an old education will do is they'll say, oh, I'll click on this thing and then I'll go to driver. And we're like, what are you doing? Why are you doing? And then I'll update the driver, and then I want to browse my computer, and then I want to pick my directory. And we're looking at you like you're using an abacus to do math. Why would you do that? Well, that's how I learned it 500 years ago. Okay, well, things have changed. You don't have to do that way. What you can do instead, and again, do it however you want. I want you to know, you make a choice. You may not realize there's a choice to be made. But if we select any item, doesn't matter what it is. Well, we've already previously selected something, but let me close this out and show you what I'm talking about. When I first opened the device manager, you see these icons up here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The minute I click on something, anything, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. We have an extra one, and it's this one right here, add drivers. Just in bulk. Hit the add drivers button. Where did we put them? We put them in the downloads directory. And you could say, well, they're also in this directory, and then they're in that directory. No. Yes, that's where they're at, but you're thinking like it's 2000. You don't do that anymore. Just hit the main directory and hit OK and hit next, and it'll just load all the drivers. That's it. That's all you have to do. Let the system do the work. Work smarter, not harder. There's no reason to go do that one by one. It'd be like if you were taking individual grains of salt and counting them to put on your meal. Just grab the shaker, let it do its job. That's what it's for. But maybe you were around before the invention of the salt shaker. We always used to grab the grains of salt and put it. Man, you got a lot of time on your hands. That's all I gotta say. Your meal's gonna be cold by the time you get to it. I'll be finished eating by the time you're done seasoning it. So I don't do this to make fun of people. I do it so you're aware. Most people have not updated their educations. They think what they learned with their computer 20 years ago still applies, and most of it no longer applies. Most of it. Everything you've learned 20 years ago, almost all of it's been replaced, updated, or obsolete now. And you say, well, it still works. You go, yeah. You could also go out with a sickle and mow your lawn by swinging a sickle left and right, because that's how they used to do it. I'm not telling you not to. I just think, man, you're working a lot harder than you need to be working. Now, it does look like we still have an issue here, but it may be resolved with a reboot. So before we make any assumption, let's restart the computer, and we'll check the device manager again. In theory, everything should be happy, unless Beelink has not included the right drivers for some items. And at this point, that wouldn't surprise me either. So if the device manager comes up clean and everything's happy, that will not surprise me. And if the device manager says a couple of things still aren't right, based on how the website looks, I'm not surprised to that. So let's figure out what we've got here. And I'm not going to try and second guess it. Let's wait and see what it is. Once we identify if there's something to fix, then we'll fix it. In that order. We don't work the other way around. We're not fixing things that might be a problem. I have other things fixed that are a problem first. So let's go to Device Manager and let's take a look and see what it says. So nothing's changed. So again, I don't know what ISP camera device is. I've never seen that in my entire career. And then we have multimedia controller. So the multimedia controller may be, well, let's see if we look under the hardware details. Is that a sound card, or, you know, HDMI has built-in sound? It could be that. We can look up the vendor ID. We could Google this. There's a lot of different ways we can go about this. I think what I will do is I will download, just out of curiosity, the Intel driver updater from Intel. Because if it's an Intel driver it's wanting, the driver and support assistant may do the work for us. We'll hit download, open, accept and install, yes. Close this out. There we go. Agree to the license agreement. Do I want to participate in their improvement program? I don't, but you might want to. Let that install. It's a pretty small little application. It installs pretty quick. This will also give us our BIOS information, an alternative way to get it apart from, say, CPU-Z or other system utilities. Because when it scans the system, which I have to allow it to scan, it's going to give us details of the system. So there is an Intel NPU driver and ARC graphics driver, which also contains a multimedia controller for audio to go through the HDMI cable. And there are updated Wi-Fi drivers again. So I'm going to hit download all. And while it's downloading, if we scroll down, we can see we've got, let's see, version 202 of the BIOS. What was it before? 203 is what we saw? I don't remember. Dated January 15th. And then AZW is the manufacturer, that's Beelink, the SEi14, and the version of Windows 11 Pro we're running here, 25H2. Let's hit install all. So the NPU driver is pretty interesting. If you are doing anything with AI, you're definitely going to want that NPU driver. Even if you're not doing anything with AI knowingly, you might have some software that will benefit from having the NPU, which if the driver's not installed correctly or at all, it can't use it because it won't recognize it without the driver. Same as a printer, right? Without the driver, you're not printing to it. All right, let's accept the license agreement and hit start. And this is all very easy stuff. Intel's doing all the heavy lifting for us here. And even though Intel doesn't make the computer, Beelink makes it. Intel makes the CPU, the chipset, the Wi-Fi card. So Intel says, hey, well, since we make that as an option, you can come to us instead of going to the manufacturer. But they'll always say, let's reboot. Intel will always say, look, you really should go to the manufacturer first. But if you want to go directly to us, you can. And I appreciate that. I like having options, especially when a manufacturer like Beelink lets us down like that, where they're not giving us all the drivers. That's unfortunate. And that's I can't be the first person, this model's been out for a year, to report, to let Beelink know, hey, all your drivers aren't in your driver package. There's stuff missing. Do you guys test this stuff or what? How much effort are you not putting in to verify what if you're not tasting what you're serving me, I'm not eating it. And it doesn't look like they tried before they served it, because it's not ready to be served. It's missing. I'd love to hear the excuse on this. More importantly, I just don't really care. Just make it right. It's disappointing. Now, just give this a second, and the Intel driver install should continue on its own here in just a minute. While we're waiting, let me just look in the device manager, see if anything's changed. Nope, still the same things. Okay, install now. Install the ARC graphics. I'm sorry if the camera was covering up the bottom right corner where the notifications are. Maybe I need to move that camera over. It's just occurring to me that I'm seeing something you're not seeing. So let me just, you don't even need to see me anyway. Let's just get rid of that, and we'll just go full screen. So this could be the multimedia controller right inside of the graphics. Maybe. This is, like any other graphics driver, it takes a minute to install it. It's not like the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth. Those are pretty small drivers. Graphics drivers, whether it's NVIDIA, AMD, or Intel, they take a minute. So be patient. It's worth the investment of time. W.E. Holmes says, thanks for the tip about updating drivers. It'll be most helpful for my work I've been doing it the old way for the last 10 years. Yeah, well, let's get you up to speed. David Martino says he bought the optimizer. Right on. Thank you, David. What about Windows activation? We don't know yet, because Windows activation may be tied specifically to hardware that's not being identified. So we have to identify the hardware first, and then the activation works. So if you're expecting an auto activation that's not happening, but you look in your device manager and there are devices that are missing drivers, likely one's causing the other one. So what you want to do is make sure you get your device manager, all your drivers installed, right? And like here it says it wants to reboot. Let's go ahead and reboot, and then check the device manager again. We still have one more driver, by the way, but we're going to let this reboot, and we want to try not to be too scatterbrained. Try to focus. Don't try and put your horse before the cart. You understand? So as far as the Windows activation goes, we haven't reached that stage to check that for any further repair until we first repair everything in the device manager so it's good. Now, if everything in the device manager is good on a fresh reboot, then we check Windows activation. There's a very good chance Windows activation doesn't need you to worry about it or do anything. On the other hand, it's still possible that activation is still not activating for some reason. And at that point, then we have an activation issue to solve. But if you don't execute in the right order, you're just spinning in circles, doing unnecessary work potentially, and you're not getting anywhere any quicker. So I'm always trying to encourage you guys, you build your foundation first, check your foundation that it's solid, and then build your frame on your foundation. Make sure your frame is solid. Then start building around your frame and onto your frame. And if you start doing it in any other order, you're probably going to have a house of cards. It's going to take longer, it's going to cost more, and it's probably going to be very frustrating for you. So that's just my advice for whatever that's worth. Let's go back to Device Manager because I'm curious, did that make any difference? No. So whatever these two items are, it's pretty interesting. Until this is resolved, there's no point in going to the next problem. We have to do this problem first. In all likelihood, once you solve this problem, your next problems get solved all by themselves. That's been my experience. So that's why I'm very passionate about my process. Now, there is a Wi-Fi driver. We should see down here, once the system finishes whatever it's doing, it'll likely give us a pop-up that the Intel Support Assistant still has one more driver to install. That's why I turned the camera off, so you can see when and if that happens. It should likely happen on its own here. If I was a bit more patient, we can check and see if the, yeah, there it is. There's the Intel Driver Assistant with the red dot. So that is indicating something is waiting. So let me double click on that, and that'll open up the browser, close that, and we'll hit install all here. And we'll put in these newer Wi-Fi drivers. I can't say that I've seen any difference between different versions of Wi-Fi drivers on this particular Intel Wi-Fi card, but there must be a reason. They're not updating them because they have nothing else better to do, and they're not charging for it. So let them pay for it, and I'll get the benefits even if I don't know what the benefits are. Now that should keep us fully updated as far as any of the Intel drivers are concerned that the Support Assistant will offer us. The Support Assistant won't offer you the chipset drivers, even though they're made by Intel. I don't know why, but whatever. It doesn't do everything Intel, but it does a lot of the Intel stuff. So with that done, the next thing I would do is take a look in the BIOS and find out if there's something in here that would indicate what these things are. So there's a couple things we can do. One, you could just delete them, just uninstall them. So we select it, hit the red X, then hit the little magnifying glass over the screen and let it find them again. If there were drivers and it missed them, it'll find them this time. If there were never drivers there to begin with, it'll just return back exactly the way it was, which is what it's done. So this may indicate something in the BIOS is enabled that's turning these on. Okay, so let's check the BIOS and we'll restart. And let's see if we can, you know, the fact that this machine wanted to reboot to the flash drive every time suggests to me somebody's monkeyed with the BIOS. I don't know who, I don't know where, but that's not normal, or it's not a normal BIOS setting to just prioritize booting to the flash drive by default. But for all I know, Beelink could have set it up that way. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Maybe the seller on eBay did it. I don't know. But once we reboot here, start pressing delete, and that should get us, I missed it. I'll try again and get into the BIOS and maybe reset the defaults or just kind of poke around in there and see if anything looks different than what we're typically expecting. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go to Settings, and then I'm going to go to Windows Update, and then I'm going to go to Advanced Options, Recovery, and Advanced Startup, and Restart Now. That will then not rely on me hitting a specific key at a specific time. This will now start up with a special menu for diagnostics, which includes starting into the BIOS without me having to worry about pressing a key. So in just a minute, when this boots, instead of booting to Windows, we're going to boot to a diagnostic menu. And that'll just take a second. Here we go. Couldn't do this in Windows 98 or XP. All right, so let's go over to Troubleshoot, Advanced Options, UEFI Firmware Settings, and Restart. So without touching anything, all I have to do is sit here and watch the screen like you're doing at home, and it's going to take me into the BIOS now. So there's more than one way to get in there, just so you know. One way is not superior to another. This is a choice you make. Okay, and as promised, there's our BIOS. And of course, we've got our embedded controller version listed. Mouse is not working. That's interesting. Let's see. Yeah, sees the RAM at 4800 megahertz. That's perfect. System date and time, perfect. So we have all these different options in here. Discrete Bluetooth interface USB. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Boy, there's a lot of stuff in here. I wonder. Yeah, boot option 1, USB device. That's not normal. What if we go to Restore Defaults and then save and exit. And then let's go back in the BIOS again. I'll start pressing delete early because now it's going to try and boot back into Windows. That troubleshooting menu was a one-time thing. Because I don't know if that's the BIOS default or if somebody changed it. So I want to save it, go back into the BIOS and see if USB is still the first boot device. Because if it is, then whoever changed it probably changed a lot more than just that. And rather than go through each item, just put it all back to defaults. The delete is not getting me in there, so it must be another key. Sorry. I am curious if this changes anything in the device manager. It did not. Okay. Well, it's worth a shot. But I still want to know if USB is still the default boot device. We're still waiting on activation because we haven't resolved the issues in the device manager at the very least. But let's go back to Windows Update, back to Advanced, back to Recovery, back to Advanced Startup. Okay. One more try in there. So anytime we make a judgment call on what is the most expedient way to resolve particular issues, sometimes, no matter how much experience you have, you'll end up doing it the hard way. But most of the time, if you have enough experience, at least 8 times, 7 times out of 10, you're right the first time. And 3 times out of 10, you're working backwards. And it's just a choice, right? I don't want to work any harder than I have to. And sometimes, 3 times out of 10, let's say, I end up working harder than I have to. So I go with the odds. Let's do troubleshoot, advanced, UEFI. Let's go again. Yeah, so I want to go, okay, 7 times out of 10, this is the way I get there. 3 times out of 10, I'm working harder because now instead of using a different process, that 7 times out of 10 that won't work for me, these 3 times out of 10, it would have worked for me faster. But you don't know, you know what I mean, until you get there, unless you have superhuman future reading skills. Notice now the boot order has changed. Boot option 1 is now NVMe. So this is the default. That means somebody changed it. And you notice how boot option 7 there is the UEFI, the EFI shell. That was what we were booting to, was the EFI shell, which is pretty weird. I'd like to be able to disable it, but I don't think you can. Oh yeah, you can. Let's get rid of that. And let's disable booting from the network. And I would move this one up. So I would choose USB device second. And I would just disable the rest of this personally. I mean, it shouldn't really matter. If things were working, it'll just boot to the first one. It won't even go on to anything beyond that. But worst case scenario, I just don't want it to boot at all. That's my personal preference. Okay, now I feel comfortable with this. We'll save changes and exit, and we'll go take another look in the device manager and see what these other 2 devices are and identify them. The fact that we would still have to do this in 2026 for last year's model is a little bit surprising. This was a more common issue 15 years ago or beyond. And I think Beelink isn't keeping up, which is, again, I'm saddened by it because, the reason I brought the GTRs out, the previous mini PCs, was what marketplace leaders they were. And we didn't have these kind of issues with them. So to see them sort of go backwards, it's I hope it's not like a sign of things to come, because if they did anything any less, I'm not sure they'd have a company anymore. It's like they're on life support. That's the impression I'm getting from their website and the driver compatibility issues. It feels like a company on life support, but I don't know. I'm just speculating. Okay, let's go to device manager. ISP camera device is on the Intel Arc graphics. That's interesting. See, this looks like another unfinished site. Product title 1, product title 10, description 10. This is like a template that nobody bothered to fill in. So what is it? Okay, series. We want SEI. Is SEI in here? No, they don't even list SEI. It's all SER, right? No SEI series in here. That's useless. So this has like been abandoned or neglected. Reinstall missing drivers. Here's an article from just under a year ago. Oh, they're having the same problem. After a reinstall, I'm struggling to resolve 2 outstanding issues. Okay, this is not good. Even Beelink doesn't know what this is. This is scary when the people at Beelink who answered this just over a year ago, right? This is March 24th. This was March 23rd, so just over a year, not under a year, just over 1 year by about 2 weeks. And there's still no resolution on their website for updating the drivers. And this was their initial response, okay? They didn't know, but now they do know. And yet a year later, nothing's changed, even after, well, let's just keep going. Hi, nothing's attached, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I have exactly the same problem. Here is our image for you to oh, I'm not installing their image. No. Here's a video tutorial. No. It seems there are drivers missing. So they were informed, Beelink was informed of this March 28th of 2025. We're in April of 2026, and they have acknowledged they received the information, and they've not responded to. Please update the chipset driver. Okay, so why would we have to update it when we already went to your site to get the drivers? So now you're directing us back to your site to get more drivers. Why would we know to do that? Let's click on that. Where does it go? It goes directly to a download of the exact same thing we've already installed. See the parenthesis 1? We've already got that. So there is one other thing that just occurred to me. Not all drivers can be installed through INF files. If Beelink has mixed program installs with driver installs, ooh, let's go take a look. That's potentially what's happening here. That means we got to look in every single folder and see if anything has a setup exe. Wow, look how many subfolders is in this. Holy cow. Okay, see, there's no setup.exe here. So we're going to go all the way out. We got to do this for every single one of these. So he said the chipset driver. So the chipset driver has an exe file here. Let's show you the file extensions. File name. I wonder, let's go there, because we already downloaded the Intel chipset driver, but maybe Beelink has modified it. So let's try and download their version of it. You see, when you go into Device Manager, you're just loading INFs. But if the INFs are built into the exe, the only way you get them is by executing the exe file. So let's try that. It says no reboots necessary. Let's reboot it. And has that been the problem the whole time? Otherwise, I need to look at all the other folders and see if there's anything else that's executable in there. Let me put camera 1 back up. Hey, Mitch Morrison joins us in the chat and says hello. He said he's going back to Hong Kong in December. All right, that is a world traveler we got there. Just got back. He's already got plans to go back 2 months later. No, wait, December's a lot further away. 9 months? That's awesome. He wants to go to Shanghai. Cool. Well, hopefully he'll get some video to send to us while he's over there. Let's go full screen over here so I can see this. Did that make any difference? It did not. No. Okay, but there's still, what, 12 other folders or something? Let's go back to downloads. And yeah, I didn't think that was, but you never know. You got to try it. Audio. What about the audio? Is that a, yeah, see, that's not an INF file. The Sentry audio setup is an executable file with drivers built within it. That means we never got these files. That's probably it right there. So it may be that Beelink didn't drop the ball on the drivers. But it's rather inconsistent in the sense that some of the folders have executables and some don't. What a lot of companies will do is they'll create an install.bat file, a batch file, and it runs you through the automated installation and automatic running of the executable files within the drivers. And you'll see that from other manufacturers where all you have to do is double click on install.bat and it'll take care of it for you. It'll start those exe files and you'll have to click next through them or whatever. But once it's done, it moves on to the next thing. That's really thoughtful when companies do that. But this at least would explain it. At least we'd say, okay, the drivers were there, but they have to individually be executed out of an executable file that the drivers are embedded in the exe file. That's not uncommon. I mean, it's not that common, but it's not uncommon. Did that fix our device manager? Did make a difference. And again, what we can do is we can like remove the device and let it search for it again, just to see if it's like, oh, I see it now. Nope, it's not there. Okay, so we'll go back to the downloads directory, back into SEi14. Okay, so we know we're good on the wireless and the Bluetooth, right? We've done the MPU driver, the VGA driver. How about the serial I/O? That could be it. I've seen this cause all kinds of problems, and it's an executable file. Let's do that one. I have seen systems, you know, a few years ago where there were devices in the device manager. You'd have to go back to the videos and look that were undetected or I didn't recognize what they were. And you see how it wants to restart the computer? I don't think we got this file either because it's also executable. That's a lot of executable drivers. You have one or two, you know, I get that, but now we're on number 3. Wow. So I got a good feeling about this now. Suddenly, now that I see serial I/O and it's bringing back some memories from a few years ago where this was more common. Again, this computer is only a year old, so I would have thought we passed that, but I would be wrong. Let's just see what happens. I don't know. Maybe it won't make a difference. The good news is once it's documented, you shouldn't have to go through this whole process ever again. Somebody should have this documented and say, by the way, guys, you got to do this or this to solve this device manager issue. And you know, if it's out there, we haven't seen it yet. And by the way, that hasn't solved it. That has also not resolved it. These are all reasons, you know, if those drivers were missing, that perhaps Windows activation is also not working. Like if the serial I/O driver was never in, I can't say for sure if it was or not. I didn't put it in there. Then for activation to not activate makes total sense. Yeah, we're still not activated here. So again, we still have the issues in the device manager. Go back to downloads, back under this folder. So this is really doing it the hard way. And again, in most cases, I can go to the device manager. I can do it the way I've demonstrated it. 7 times out of 10, that's all that needs to be done. Just go back and look at my videos in the past where we've done that. And about every 10 videos you'll see, maybe there's 3 of them out of those 10 where I have something I'm struggling to figure out what the heck it is. And this is one of those days. Here's another. This is the management engine from Intel. I definitely did not put that in. Could that be part of the problem? This was, again, a few years ago, a driver we had to install to get rid of errors in the device manager, but I don't think we need to do it anymore. But again, What do I know? VGA, NPU. I know we put the NPU in. We put the VGA in. Then what goes next? 6. PMT. I don't know what PMT is. Those are just the drivers that would have gone into Device Manager. There's no executable. If you're curious about the executables, we can just use the search and type in .exe and just let it search for anything with an executable. So the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth are executables, the audio is executable, and the graphics. Oh, it says there's more. There's a lot. We're just looking with the highlighted EXEs here. Well, it's pretty unusual. And I felt like we were making some really good progress there, and especially in a very early search when we were looking for ISP camera, Beelink, driver, SEi. I know I'm misspelling some things, it's fine. Is this where we were? When I turned on the computer for the first time, I did a fresh install, downloaded the full driver. It does not contain these drivers. We're still experiencing that. Here's an image for you. Okay, well that is the trick, but where are the drivers? So essentially we could download the image. So let's click on this. What was that? Firmware.rar. It's 12 gigs. That's not a firmware. I don't know what's going on at Beelink, man. I am kind of breaking my heart over here, Beelink. Well, that downloads. That's clearly a full system image. Let's see what other discussions have been had. See, Beelink even has their own forums. You know, someone had a problem with their computer reactivating. What was the latest BIOS on this? I forgot. SEi14. Nothing. Great. Breaking my heart, Beelink. Breaking my heart. They even have an official Reddit page. It's too generic for me. What is this? It seems sketchy. Would I trust this site? No, I would not trust them. I don't even see an SEi14 in the list. It's a shame when a third party has to do it. Don't you think that this is something, unless they went out of business, why should a third party have to do this? Hmm. Hmm. And we're gonna go being on YouTube. Come on, back where we were. Oh, it's already here. Let's click on that again so I can scroll down. Downloads. That's the only way I can find it. We had 202 and the latest BIOS is 203. But that's a document. I don't want a document. Only 20X can flash. So we already have 202. This does appear to be the file we want. I guess that adds it to a shopping cart. Let's hit that once. I don't know that that has anything to do with our issue. What's inside of here? Oh, AFUWin. Okay. So we can run winflash.bat, but I'm still downloading this massive RAR file because one of the ways that we can resolve this, if you really want to do this the hard way, is reinstall the operating system using their image, then use the Windows 11 optimizer that I make to back up the drivers onto a flash drive, then reinstall a clean copy of Windows and then restore the drivers from this image that we will have backed up. In theory, that solves the problem. Another way we can do this is we can go back to the device manager and pretend like the internet doesn't exist and we have to look everything up like it's 1997, where we have to look up identification device IDs. We can take something like that and hit copy and then search for it like in a database. In this case, the database is the internet, and see what comes up. And it's basically coming up that it is Intel GPU related, which is what my assumption was all this time, right? I've been saying there seems to be something about the Intel driver. Now, we could install the Intel driver from Beelink, right? Because we did get it from Intel, and we got it from probably from Windows Update, but we never got it directly from Beelink. Maybe that's the problem. If we go back to the device manager, not the device manager, I mean the downloads directory, and we look back under drivers, and for GPU, which number was that? These are all out of order. 1, 2, 4. They're calling it VGA, which is silly. We haven't used VGA in a long time. It's meant to say GPU. But this is, again, we're seeing the downfall of a once great here, with Beelink falling on the technical side of understanding, the technical side of providing, the lack of support, the lack of a working website. This looks like a company that is fading away. Like they look like they're on their deathbed from everything we can see online. It's a little shocking that they've fallen so far from where they once were. At least as far as appearances go. Do you want to force? Yeah, yes, I do. See, the audio driver is built into the GPU, but there's also an audio driver built into the sound card. These are two separate audio drivers. One goes to your monitor, and the other goes to speakers. And you can choose the output if you're wondering why you have two sound cards. Welcome to HDMI and DisplayPort. That's another reason it's not a VGA driver. VGA driver would not have its own audio controller in it. Not a thing. Nick Capri said it's nearly midnight in Ireland. He's saying good night. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. Enjoy your evening. Dennis says it might be easier to mount an ISO and pull the drivers out of it, but it depends. It may not be an ISO, right? We don't know until we download it. A 12 gig file may not be an ISO. So we'll download, that's why I want to download the file and look at it. Because if I can just point the device manager to it, I don't even have to use DISM. I can just point the device manager. If we see a Windows directory, or it can search all the directories for us and pull the drivers on its own. We don't have to work that hard. But if you wanted to work hard, you would then take that ISO, go ahead and install their image, then extract the drivers with DISM, move those drivers onto a flash drive or a secondary location, then reinstall the OS again, fresh and clean, putting us back where we are now, then put the drivers back in. And at that point, I should have just bought from AliExpress. You know, I didn't need to buy from Beelink if this is, this is the kind of lack of support and the type of lack of information and unfinished websites and wrong English and incomplete driver downloads that is typical from AliExpress. So if I bought this from AliExpress, I'd say, well, that's what I should have expected. But if I'd have bought this from Amazon, if it were still available for sale, and I went through this, then spending about the same amount of money for somebody else's equivalent, whether it's Geekom or Minisforum or GMK Tech or whoever, Ace Magic, wouldn't have this problem. So unless there's a significant price savings worth tolerating this, Beelink is not keeping up with their competitors. They're falling short. So either fall short on your price or fix what's wrong. Maybe that's why they don't offer this anymore. Maybe this was such an issue, they just said, let's cancel it, replace it with the Ultra 9. But do I want to invest in an Ultra 9 to see if we have the same issues? If Beelink wants to send us one, we'll look at it, but I'm not going to pay for it just to do that to myself. No, thank you. But we will make it work. It's just, you know, there's a process now that I wasn't expecting. Okay, I don't want to do the reboot while we're downloading, and we're going to have to start the download over. And that download's going to take a while. It needs, well, I think we'll end up just going ahead and letting this sit, and we'll have to do this off camera, unfortunately. I think this is going to make it here. It didn't. Yeah, there's nothing. Nothing. Now, when you're sitting at home and you got all day and you're not doing a live video with the world watching you, it might be a lot easier and more relaxing for you to spend 3 days on it. But if you did a 72-hour video on putting in 2 simple drivers and figuring it out, you'd probably lose a lot of faith in your viewers that you don't know what you're doing. So when you're doing it privately at home and you're doing it the hard way, or you're beating your head against the wall for something that may be obvious to somebody else watching, you may look back on it as no big deal, whereas I look back on it as quite a bit more dramatic, right? Because I'm in a fishbowl, right? And I do that on purpose. I want you to see what reality is like, not the carefully crafted and edited, polished, controlled narrative that most content creators, especially manufacturers, want to have you perceive as being a typical experience. Look how smooth this is, right? It's like a cooking show. They mix all those ingredients together so fast. There's already something they put in the oven earlier that's already done. So now you put this in the oven for 45 minutes, and over here in this oven, we've already done that, and here's the finished product. And you think, wow, they made that look so easy. Nothing ever went wrong, anyway. Yeah. Close all. No, I don't want to close. I want to keep the download going here. I can update the BIOS. I don't think that's going to make a difference. It is disconcerting to see something called a camera device, which I just think is weird, because it's not a well-known thing I've ever seen on an Intel GPU. And this multimedia controller, if we look at the hardware ID on that one, we hit Control C. That's the management engine, I guess. And I think this takes us back to the same one single discussion. What's too bad is that nobody extracted the drivers and provided Beelink the links. I mean, link is right in their name. You think they could do that part right? I guess I got stung by the B in the Beelink name. And that was last year. Oh, apparently they had a problem with Windows keys. They're acknowledging it here just 2 months ago. If you need a Windows activation key, send a picture of your serial number to my private discussion. We'll send you the key. Well, we might end up having to do that. You should not have to pay for a key, even on a bare bones unit that somebody removed an SSD out of. In other words, the manufacturer shipped it with a product key. Now, if the manufacturer shipped it bare bones and it never had a product key, then they'll tell you as much. This person says, I don't know how to start a private. See, one support question, they tell you how to resolve it, and they go, but I don't understand what that means. So then they have to explain what they just explained. This person's not following instructions. Let me just show the world my serial number. Here, let's get a close-up of it, too. The guys, this poor support guy's like, read what I told you. Look at how everybody's jumping on board with this nonsense. This is not a you should not be showing this off publicly. He keeps responding, private message, private, 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 nothing about this. And then they just keep going. And there's another one, and there's another one. They just skip right through it. They're not even reading it. Oh, I see. You just post a picture of your serial number. So let me just go ahead and do that. That's as far as they're paying attention. And that just keeps happening. What a nightmare. Oh, gosh, they handled this so badly. What they should have done is, instead of saying private message me, they should have sent a link with a form to fill out. And then you would attach a photo, you would follow steps, you'd hit submit. But because now one person did it, all the other sheeple just did exactly this, and it just keeps going. They're so mindless. They're just like zombies. It's like you're talking to somebody who's only half alive. This guy says, well, I'm not going to take a picture of it, but I'll write it down. Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to be a manufacturer? Do you want to be a company? And do you want to work with this public? Because look at how rampant the ignorance is here. Just over and over and over. And no matter what this poor guy says, nobody's reading it. They just keep doing the same thing over and over. Every new poster with every photo is a new poster, ignoring everything that was said before, not following directions, and not giving a damn. But you better help me, or I'm going to leave a negative review and go on social media and just trash talk your company. Who wants to serve customers anymore when this is what your customers are doing in such large quantities? That would make me want to stop selling to customers. Just sell to businesses and deal with IT departments that do the job right. This is just ridiculous. Now, whatever Beelink did to cause this, you know, it's not like they're innocent here. The fact that so many people need a license key. This person installed Windows 10 Enterprise LTSC, but it doesn't detect it. You don't have a license for LTSC. You'd have to buy that. That did not come with your system. This is the public. This is what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not exaggerating. The level of entitlement and ignorance that we are dealing with as manufacturers is enough to make people want to stop selling to the public. You know, sell it through Best Buy, let Best Buy handle it. This just keeps going and going. I'm getting worked up over it. It's not like there's one or two. You're looking at dozens and dozens and dozens on one forum with the same complaint, and nobody's listening. Nobody is listening, including Beelink. You gotta have some empathy for the poor support guys. Like whatever caused this problem where all these product keys aren't working wasn't this poor guy's fault, right? Somebody else in the company caused it. Now he's there to fix the mess, and he's trying to help people, and they will not listen to him. Oh my gosh, that's frustrating to see that. I feel it. It's like a PTSD. Oh, I don't want that guy's job. What a horrible, thankless job that is. So I guess I should take a picture of my serial number. Like he's not working. Okay. I have the freedom to be honest with you. I'm not beholden to Beelink. I like Beelink. I really like them. But this is unacceptable. This is disappointing. It makes me sad to see the company in tatters and what they once were, you know, going back to like this era. Where's this Beelink? Where did this company go? Is it coming back? Or are we saying goodbye? It's like you've known a friend, you grew up with a friend, it's like a family member, and that friend starts making decisions that end up leading them down a wrong path in life. And there's nothing you can do to stop them in their self-destruction. And it's painful. It hurts to watch somebody just keep doing a drug, destroying their lives, destroying their family, destroying everybody around them who cared for them, and then burying them. That's how emotional I am about this. I mean, what a fall. Are they going to get back up again? I have no worry about them, just to be clear, about the quality of the build. What I am concerned about is the support side of things. And I cannot reiterate this strongly enough. if this is the kind of support they want to deliver, I'll just go to AliExpress and I'll save some money. There's no reason to pay Beelink prices and not get Beelink support. Whatever that wasn't any sort of professional support I've ever seen. That felt like somebody's winging it and making things up. Just making it up as they go. I don't see proper procedures. I don't see proper policies in place. Everything is sloppy. Website's inconsistent. Things are worded wrong. Drivers are missing. That's AliExpress all day long. But at least you could say, well, I got it really cheap, right? Now, in my case, the only reason I got this cheap is one, it's used, and two, somebody stripped out the RAM and SSD. So once I get the drivers sorted, and I've already told you how I'm going to do that, it's just going to take a few hours. I'll back up the drivers. Maybe I'll post them on Google Drive and send it to other SEi14 owners, but that's not my job. If Beelink wants to pay me to hire me to fix this, let's talk. This isn't rocket science. This is really easy stuff. Why is nobody doing it? Is there no budget? Are you not hiring the right people? Are there no people left? I mean, I don't know. There's got to be a reason. This is not helping Beelink. This is not enduring clients to you. If I experience this as a regular end user and this is my first experience with Beelink, there will not be a second one. You have one chance to make a first impression. This was not a good one. Your website's not a good first impression. Your support site's not a good first impression. Your forums are not a good first impression. None of that is professional. None of it is up to the level of your serious competitors. Ace Magic has minipcunion.com. You get much better support over there. Their website's more professional. Minis forums the same, more professional. Geekom, more professional. GMK Tech's more professional. You know who's not as professional? Those off-brand names that we don't know by, you know, they're not household names that you could only find on AliExpress. And I just thought Beelink was above that. Maybe I've been wrong this whole time. Maybe the whole thing back here, maybe this was just a facade. Or maybe this company's in real dire financial straits and they're doing everything they can to survive. But it's not going to get you out of it by making it worse. If you can't be bothered to do it right, then just don't do it. That's my advice. If you want to get yourself out of the financial problem you're in, stop doing these things. Start doing it right and get those customers to come back again. You're not doing it right, and all you're doing is adding to your demise by just continuing down this downward spiral until there's nothing left. Oh, that's painful. That is sad and painful. But once the driver issues are resolved, and that's out of the gate, and the activation issue is resolved, I'm sure it's a good, reliable machine. I'll be surprised if it's not. But I'm not super excited to be spending any more money on any Beelinks. You know, the seller on eBay had nothing to do with this situation here. By comparison, go back to last Friday and we bought a machine called Origimagic from eBay. And we did this exact same thing. We put our own RAM, we put our own storage, we put our own OS. Go back and watch that. Tell me which one you'd buy. If they're both the same price, which one would you buy? Because none of this happened. It's not coincidence, it's the support. That's why support is so important. That's why it's worth paying extra to get support, should you need it. Otherwise, there's Craigslist, Facebook, OfferUp, and AliExpress, and Temu. Knock yourself out. Have fun. Roll the dice. You enjoy that. Imagine, I just want you to think for a second, imagine if Beelink was paying me to make this video. Do you think I would be saying any of this out loud? Do you think I would be allowed to? Probably not. And if I did it anyway, they'd probably just sever ties with me. Because why would they pay me to criticize them? Why would you pay somebody to criticize you? Doesn't make any sense. But because we are viewer supported, we can do this and we can be this honest. We're not trying to throw anybody under a bus. We're just calling it as we see it. And we had really high expectations because of the Beelink we used to know. This isn't the same Beelink anymore. That's all I can tell you. I don't know why. I'm just curious, since I've droned on here, did this ever finish? No, it's going to be a while. Yeah, so we'll just wrap it up for today because it's clear to me this ain't happening during the live video, and we'll have to do a follow-up once all this is behind me. I'll update the BIOS, I'll get the driver situation sorted. Maybe I'll take the drivers and upload them to Google Drive and share them. Maybe I won't. It's not my responsibility. I'm not paid to do it. If somebody has an SEi14 and they can't find the drivers, hey, that's what you get. Maybe don't buy that anymore. You know, for Carey to solve your problem for free just encourages more Beelink sales, and it doesn't pay me 1/10 of a penny. So I'm very, very negative about doing work for free for the customers to profit from and from Beelink to profit from when the one doing the work doesn't get paid at all. So why would I do that? Just so I can have more people take advantage? Let Beelink take advantage. Let the customers should be as upset as I am. Stop buying these products until this company is forced to make things right or go out of business. That's it. And anything I do to help, all I'm doing is like giving an alcoholic more beer. So I'm having a fight with myself because I really want to help people. But on the other hand, if helping them in the long run is actually hurting them, it's just prolonging their suffering, you're better off not helping. So I'll figure out what I want to do on that. I'm not real clear on which way I want to go. But I shouldn't have that even on the table. It shouldn't even be an option. Beelink should be doing that. That's what customers paid them for. They didn't pay me for it. And if Beelink wants to work with me and I can help make all this right, let's talk. We'll make it right. But if not, it's not my business. It's not my responsibility. It's not my circus, and it's not my monkeys. All right, well, what are you going to do? It is what it is. Sunday, we have the Minis Forum at G1 Pro, which I'm super excited to look at. That's a $1,700 PC. Not bare bones, by the way. Should be good to plug and play. Sitting brand new in a box. I'm waiting to unbox it. I really want to unbox it, but I am going to wait for you. Monday will be members only, and then following Friday, we bought a PC from Amazon called a Firebat. And perhaps with the contributions we've been receiving, I think we have enough to buy the GMK Tech K8. It's around $400. And if we do that, hopefully have it in time for Sunday. And then we're back to nothing again. But that buys us a whole week to come up with some other content, repairs, upgrades, or even products that could be sent to us for review. But as of right now, we've got nothing being sent to us that I'm aware of. But I could be forgetting some stuff too. But things have really, really, really slowed down in the industry. And I expect, from what I understand, we're going to ride out 2026 like this. But I'm not going anywhere. You stick around, I'll stick around, I promise you. But at this point right now, it's a real struggle to come up with content in this category. It's tough. Might have to change categories. Might turn into a cooking channel. Everybody's got to eat. I don't know. Hopefully this will all start coming back here by the end of the year, but what are you going to do? Thank you, Frankie B. Thank you to Mark Gaines. Thank you to Nick Caffrey. Thank you as well to our good friend Buster for the Amazon gift cards and support. Also, I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. I think I got everybody. We certainly appreciate all of our members and even the regular viewers that join us here in the chat and part of this community. We love having you here. If you want to reach out with ideas, suggestions, questions, comments, our email address I'll put right up here on the screen. Thanks to Mara for all the work she does in designing our thumbnails and all the research she had to do to just find the drivers on this darn thing and and get the specs, which clearly we got some of them wrong. That's something else we'll correct after the show. Now that I have Windows installed, I can accurately identify, who makes the network drivers, or who makes the network cards, what brand and model they are, and what speed they are, along with, now that I know that RAM works in here, we can identify that as the RAM that we used and the SSD that we used. I never did get around to Cinebench R23. I've not gotten around to Crystal Disk Mark, so we'll likely do a follow-up part 2 on this next week, so we can finish up this review, maybe Wednesday. That would be my guess. So that's good. I like to do a show on Wednesdays if I have anything to do. This last Wednesday I had nothing. So this, at least the bright side is, hey, we got something to follow up on. The downside is, hey, we have to follow up on it. Like the Origimagic, it was one and done. There's nothing to follow up. It was all done in one video. Affected obstacles. So, got to make lemonade from those lemons. Andy says, thank you, Carey and Mara. Thanks, Andy. David Herzog says, great live stream, as always. Thank you, David. And Dustin Fuller. Appreciate the kind words. Ron Toomey said, would that PC have come with Windows 11 Home? That's why it's not activated, because you installed Pro. I did not choose the version of install. So I did explain this twice or 3 times in the video. Maybe you joined us late, or maybe you weren't listening. When Windows installs without asking your version, it does that because there's already a product key in. So I did not choose to install Home or Pro. That decision was made for me based on the product key in the BIOS.
For Wednesday's already.
Wednesday is spoken for. So I can't do this on Wednesday. Well, shoot.
You Thursday.
Maybe. But then I also have to do the show Friday. And then we do a show Sunday. And then that leaves us nothing. So we might have to extend it out a week. Well, this will be done tonight, one way or another. But when I can get back to it, we'll... I forgot, we have a company that wants us. They're starting a Kickstarter on Wednesday, and they want us to promote it. And I'm fine with it. So they've been very involved with us for getting our opinions on this product that we can't talk about yet. And I'm okay to do that for them because it's a small company, and they're not some company that has a big marketing budget and stuff like that. So I'm happy to participate, to get the product early and be able to give my thoughts on it, my concerns. They seem to appreciate it, and it's a product I myself would use if I needed it, and would certainly recommend to people that would consider if that solves a need for them, which it won't do for everybody. But anyway, that's Wednesday. I forgot about that. Nemo is doing an AI NAS, says NY Renal MD, a product that you can put a full graphics card in it. Yeah, I saw Nemo promoting that, but the unfortunate thing is that these NAS devices, like Orico and Minisforum, their software is been abandoned as far as I can tell. It started as a beta, and it never got finished, and it doesn't seem to be getting updated. So if you want to put Windows on it, and use it as a pretty high-end Windows computer with 5 drive bays or 4 drive bays, or you want to provide your own TrueNAS, Unraid, Zima, or something else to run the NAS, it's not a turnkey solution. So likely what Nemo is doing, if I had to guess, is they're doing what Orico and Minisforum has done, is they've gone to this Chinese NAS software that's not done, that isn't really being actively worked on, that's in beta. And if what you want to do is everything based on your phone, if that's the only way you want to use your NAS, the software works primarily with that focus. But if you want it to be more like a Synology or a QNAP or heck, even TerraMaster or ASUS, what is it called? ASUS Tech or something. Those are much more polished operating systems, And the reason why I put up with Synology, dealing with the drive restrictions was because of the operating system, right? The DSM makes it all worth the trouble. It's so polished, it does so much, it's so smooth, it's so reliable, it's so secure. And QNAP would be second choice for me, and then ASUS, and then TP-Link, in that order for me. Anything involving open source, TrueNAS, Unraid, Open Media Vault, Zima OS, that's all hobbyist stuff. That's fine. I dismiss it because I don't make any money from that. I don't want to be held accountable for that. I have no interest in it. It's like I'm building race cars and somebody's buying Matchbox cars and they want to play. And I'm like, I'm not playing over here. I got a race to win. There's money at stake. I could lose my job. And they're over there going, let's set up the Hot Wheels tracks and make it do a loop-de-loop. I'm just like, you have fun. I'm not telling you not to. Okay. But I'm over here doing work that I'm getting paid for. So I don't want to get into the kind of work that hobbyists and enthusiasts do that maybe charge companies for that kind of work. I get paid to undo what those people did. So a company would hire me and say, we're having these problems. We don't have the last guy who set all this up. Can you fix it? And I see they're running TrueNAS or they're running one of these things. And I'm like, first thing I'm going to do is get that out of here. We got to get that out of here. We got to get you with a turnkey business solution. We'll have you up and running by Tuesday. Sign the paperwork. Let's get going. This will be done. So I make money. I want to be clear on this. This is not an attitude issue. I actually make money undoing what the hobbyists have done to businesses. Just give it time. They'll call. And I wish they wouldn't do that because the business wouldn't be calling me and I wouldn't have the business. It's nothing I'm proud of in the sense of saying I have to fix somebody else's bad decision making. But I am proud of helping the business owners and getting them out of the hole they were put in because they didn't know any better and they trusted the person who did it. And then when that person leaves for any reason at all, they're kind of stuck trying to find a specialist who knows how to fix it. Or they might have had an issue the whole time that was never resolved, which is often what I find out. Oh yeah, they said they were going to do this and it just hasn't been done yet and they were going to figure it out and get back to us. And we wanted to be able to do something that they told us we could do. And we're doing 99% of it, but this other 1%, they never finished it. Anyway, the solution's always the same. Pull the hobbyist stuff out of there. Let's get proper business tools in your business. Let's get you up and running. And then all we have to do is maintenance at that point. So you want to do this stuff at home, have fun. And you want to do it at businesses and you can make money at it, that's great. But I would say you're not really doing the business the favor you think you're doing them when if the business has to replace you for any reason, has to find somebody who knows that particular software. That's the part that kind of grinds into me. I wouldn't do that to a customer. You have to come back to me or a specialist. That just seems really selfish. But that's just me. That's just the way I am. If I leave a job for any reason, they fire me or I quit, you can literally hire anyone with a modicum amount of basic business knowledge, business technology knowledge to do what I do. Because what I do is really simple, super reliable. It's not complicated. All the passwords and logins are available so the next person can take over with or without my consent, and that my business customers come back to me because they want to, not because they have to. That's really important to me. And most of the people in my industry don't have those ethics. They just want to make money and it doesn't matter how they get it. I just can't. I just can't. All right. So the idea of just having a NAS without the NAS OS, it's worthless. You've never seen a Beelink NAS on this channel because it's worthless. It doesn't come with an OS. We've not revisited the N5 or the other Orico NASs because no progress has really been made to make it worthwhile. It's still a beta OS. So unless we put Windows on it and just use it as a Windows computer with multiple bays, That's not what it was advertised as. It was advertised as doing both, but the Miniswarm N5 only does one. And the Orico doesn't even do what they claimed it can do, because you can't even put Windows on it. You have to provide your own OS. And if you have to provide your own OS to Nemo or to Beelink or any of these others, or if Nemo is what I'm suspecting they're doing and using the same OS as Miniswarm and Orico, then we're right back to the same square, which doesn't mean anything about the hardware. It's completely pointless without the software to drive it. What good is it? It's like having a car with no gas. How are you going to go anywhere? But I have nothing against Nemo. I wish them nothing but the best. I think they're making a big mistake. ASUS Store, that's what I was thinking. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, ASUS Store is a different company from ASUS. ASUS Store makes the networking products, the NAS products. So yeah, I mean, Nemo can do whatever they want. I like Nemo, I like the people over there, but I don't know what they're thinking. You've got to do the software first, then do the hardware. Miniswarm needed to get the software first, then the NAS. Orico needed the software first. So now they've all come out with the hardware, and there's nothing to drive it other than open source third party, which you could have just built yourself, quite frankly. What do you need them for? So I can't wrap my head around this. It's expensive, it's time consuming, it's complicated. Sign me up, I guess? No. No, if I'm not there, you go ahead and start without me. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me for today. A long show today, thanks to Beelink. Yeah, we'll point the blame. And we'll be back on Sunday, as usual, 1 o'clock Phoenix time, which is currently Pacific time. That's 4 p.m. on the East Coast. I hope you'll join me then, and until next time, bye for now.